on the council and or me? All right, we're gonna move on. Oh, Chuck's got one. I didn't see you there, Chuck. What do you got?
Well, as some of you may know, I am chairman of the board of Utah Military Academy. We have 3 campuses. The third one is being purchased and built down here in St. George. And we've acquired 25 acres between Firelight and the Bureau of Land Management. And so from time to time, we'll be hearing about it over the next 3 years. We do not anticipate any impact on the city. But whatever comes up regarding the city, and that I will abstain from voting on the issues.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Thanks, Chuck. All right, we are going to move into our consent agenda. Review a possible approval of meeting minutes from May 21st, 2025.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 21st, 2025.
Have a motion, and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move into city department reports. Ash Creek Special Service, Mike or Matt, neither one of them are here. So Joey, you want to, or you don't want to?
Go for it. You never warned me.
I don't know about that. And our last board meeting was 2 weeks ago. We basically discussed the sewer treatment plant down in Confluence Park is on schedule and on budget. They plan on opening it up by December. The reuse pump station will be online as well at that time. They're moving right along. So that started much later, but they've got it almost caught up. So that is the water district is paying for that portion. So that's not coming out of the original bid on the sewer plant. The rest of the meeting was basically talking about all the new development coming out throughout the east side of the county, everything over here, Hurricane, Laverican, Tocqueville, Leeds. So all, 20, 25, 30,000 building permits pretty much on this side of the county at this point. So that's what's going on at the sewer district. So any questions about the sewer? All right, we're going to move on to Hurricane Valley Fire District. Merlin, let's have it.
Okay, seen a lot of wrecks. Yeah, we've had a lot of wrecks, but for May, we came out on the 31st, my crew. We needed 11 calls by midnight to reach 600 calls for the month of May. We've never, that's quite a few calls. That's 19.35 calls a day. They didn't all come that average. There was days we'd have 30 and days we'd have 10. But so that set a record for
For the month of May?
calls. For any month total for a month. Yeah.
How many .35 calls do you have?
19.
That would be average 19.35. If I felt like we had 300 of those 600 calls, but we should only had 200 to average it out. But so we're staying busy. We got our 6 wildland guys on for the summer and into the fall. So they're getting all their training done. I know they're going around doing a lot of litigation or mitigation, cutting trees and stuff like that, waiting for a assignment. So far it's been quiet, but it's not going to last very long. State of Utah is getting pretty dry. If you've driven up and down the state, it's a lot of vegetation for not a lot of rain, but it's starting to turn. And it seems like the further central you get, I just noticed when I drove up last week, it's getting pretty dry up that way also. So. And some of the other states are burning pretty good right now, so I don't think it'll be too long before our crews will be out. That's pretty much what I've got, unless there's something you guys have.
You guys got any questions for Merlin? You guys did a good job. We appreciate it. We appreciate your hard work. So make sure your crews know that we are always looking out for them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Val, Planning Commission, you got anything for us this evening?
We don't.
Okay, well, if we need your input when we get into this, we'll definitely ask you for it. Planning and Zoning Administrator, Emily, what do you have for us tonight?
We've been working on the NPDO site plan, which you're going to see tonight, and then the general plan amendment. We've also had a couple applications come to us that were for simple subdivisions. One is currently going through the JUC process. And if you remember when we did the subdivision ordinance, we updated that. So under 3 lots is just a staff level decision. And a couple other like planning staff review type meetings, but no other official applications yet. I am working on the sign ordinance draft. I think I'll have that for your review by the next meeting, so you can see it before it goes to public hearing. And then elections, been working hard on election stuff. It is Declaration of Candidacy Week, so we have till Friday at 5 p.m. There's 2 4-year council seats open, 1 2-year council seat, and then the mayor seat.
So please come in and run for mayor. Anything else? All right. Darren, Assistant City Manager, what do you have for us this evening?
So my report, just engineering wise, we were staying super busy with everything. As you can see, all the construction, everything from Boulder Ridge. They are moving quite a bit of dirt there right now, building that. We have development pressure from a few of those entities. Sapp Brothers right now, they are pushing hard to get the stoplight actually permitted through approval through UDOT. They've closer than they've ever been. I'll just say that. And so they are moving forward. They are trying to open, as you know, they've got a billboard to fall of this year. They're moving as quick as they can as well. Most everything there is just a simple day-to-day, making sure that standards and specifications are adhered to, ordinances adhered to. And on the parkway, essentially, in our construction meeting, they discussed the sand pocket and the actual north side of the south cut slope. That is done. It's actually about a month faster than they had projected to get that done. So they're ahead of schedule on that portion of it. They are out there right now putting the super modified HMA, the highly modified hot mix asphalt, what that all stands for. They're putting a 2-inch overlay. Very quickly behind that, within a couple, 3 weeks, they will be striping everything, getting the colors put in. So it's going to be probably a month and a half to 2 months is what they're looking at to have that complete. And then at the same time, they are working on the permanent north tie-in. They are getting the Mayor and I were, and UDOT and the contractor, and if you were out there, seeing the traffic control plans that they have for those tie-ins. And so it's kind of a logistic type of
You can say
dance.
nightmare. You can say
A
nightmare.
nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're taking 2 lanes at the north side and 2 lanes at the south side, and trying to tie them into. They have to get into the actual travel lanes to tie the asphalt into the new parkway. And so they'll start on the north side. As soon as they get the north side, well, they'll do the north side and the south side. As soon as they get the north side to where they can tie it in, they'll send traffic down, and for a temporary basis. And
Did you notice this morning, we was there yesterday and we looked at the dents and from all the rocks, they had ground all that out today.
yeah, they ground it all
They went
out.
through and built all that out.
They got the asphalt machine there,
Yep.
to put down the 3 inches.
And then they come back with the top. too.
Yeah.
Yeah. From yesterday to today, I was surprised how much they got done.
So one nice thing is the sand pocket
Mhm.
is UDOT has came to a conclusion that they're okay with what's there. And they're willing to sign off and say, yep, we're good with that. So with all the slope mitigation that we've done there, everything's going well. We're moving forward a little bit faster than we'd hoped. So there still is no guaranteed, this is the date we're
Right,
going to
yeah.
open, but we're moving as quick as we can.
Okay. You guys have questions for Darren?
Did you get the power pole TDS?
The TDS up on top.
Up on top.
They are working with, right now, they're working with JED. They actually have the plan submitted to us as a encroachment permit. Most of that is determined that was in either the new construction of the parkway or UDOT's right of way, so they didn't need a encroachment permit from us, but they do. They're actually putting what they call handholds every so often. The existing conduit is up the east and north side of the parkway right now. So they're just pulling their infrastructure through those existing conduits. And then where every one of those conduits, every so many feet, I think it's every 500 to 600 feet, they put what they call a handhole, which is basically what, you'd see your irrigation box. It looks a lot like that. It's a little bit bigger though. And,
So then eventually the span's gonna come down? That's
the pole, yeah, the
That
pole will
pole's
come off the
still up,
top.
Eventually.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's not gonna prevent us from opening the parkway if it gets done, correct?
No,
Okay.
no. Exactly. If
Okay.
they were, let's say the parkway was open and they were out there, they're just gonna have like a 2-man crew on the side of the road that they would have to put traffic control up
Right.
and make sure that their people are safe as well as the public, traveling public through there. It's not a big process. It's not like bringing out mini X's even. It would just be, it's pretty much shovels and for the most part, unless they hit something heavy, but it would be a mini X at the biggest machine.
Okay, anybody else got a question, Darren? All right, thank you, Darren. Ben?
It's been a busy week. If you've been out in the neighborhoods, you've probably seen Public Works out repairing some water lines. We had three leaks pop up over the last few days. They got them all repaired and asphalt patches in. So they were busy in getting them repaired and got the asphalt fixed real quick too. Wanted to bring your attention to a new report on the website. So this is under, if you go to services and then public safety. What we did, so we compiled the law incident summary report. And so this will be a quarterly report that we show, that we make available on our website of law incident responses. So this is when the sheriff's office, or it's all from the sheriff's office, the types of incidents and locations in the community where they responded. And the hope is here we can identify trends, patterns over time. Essentially every response, this is not necessarily criminal mischief activity. This is just when they get called out. So hopefully over time we can see how demand fluctuates across the different areas within the community.
Looks like we need to clean up downtown.
I was just about to say that.
Jeez.
You know, a lot of those downtown responses are tied to the boulevard. And
Oh, I think it was Old Church Road. Just kidding, Jenny. I know.
I was looking at Wayne. I didn't
I
even-
was thinking Wayne and Joey Wilson and,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, so I imagine we'll talk about this maybe annually as part of our strategic planning process. As we have more responses in the communities, population increases, we'll see it kind of fluctuate across the different areas of the community. So I think that'll be a neat thing to just keep an eye on within the community.
Can I ask what public service category would include?
Yeah, this is administrative items that the sheriff's office are doing, like VIN inspections is the most common one. If you buy a used car and need a VIN inspection, it's a call out. So it's an incident technically, but it's just administrative related.
Okay. Thank you.
Not criminal.
Yeah. Then we have a quick update on the water tank. Contractors have been out there today excavating out the inlet. No, we don't have a definitive cause yet, so hopefully we'll identify that soon on the reason for the tank levels dropping. But so far, no news. Wanted to provide a quick update on the state legislature. So interim committee meetings have begun. That's officially, those interim committees are in session. No special sessions have been scheduled yet. There is one rumored, as of last I heard, there's a rumor for a special legislative session in September.
I was told it was August now,
Oh, is it? Okay.
but
Moved up to
you never
August.
know.
Trying to just keep our ears to the ground and be as informed as we can on these special legislative sessions. So far, committee meetings are just kind of pending. A lot of activity happens, but not any formal action. So the two major topics as it relates to local government that I've pulled out are municipal revenue is going to be in the next upcoming session. That's the transportation utility fees. And so we anticipate hearing more conversations about that, and then property taxes. Don't know what direction they're going on property taxes, but supposedly that's the word, is that maybe some local property tax reform. Also on nuclear power, which is interesting. A lot of conversation at the state level as far as nuclear power. That's all that I had for updates.
All right, anybody have any questions for Ben?
I got a quick question. On our website, we used to have the strategic planning on there. Did that go somewhere?
It's on there, but it's no longer linked as one of the like active, the
Okay.
top 3 menus. You have to do a little digging to get there.
And the digging is,
That's a good question.
Okay.
I could get back to you on that.
okay.
All right, we are going to move into our public forum portion of the meeting. Please come up and comment on anything you want, unless it's on the agenda, then we don't want to hear about it until it's time for the agenda. So if anybody has anything they'd like to bring forward, come up now. And please state your name. That's all we want.
I'm Rick Caldwell. I'm a partner with Jerry Eves on the Boulder Ridge project. I'm also boots on the ground over there on a regular basis, tracking the project and dealing with some of the challenges we have, like big rocks. I know that's hard to believe. One of the reasons that we have submitted this application for to open the master plan back up is as I've gone through.
Yeah, this is just a public forum. On the public hearing, I'll call you up on that one.
Okay,
So yeah,
sorry.
this is before that. Sorry, no, this is just public forum part. So we'll get into the hearing part in a minute.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close our public forum. We're going to move into our public hearing. I do need a motion to move into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor to move into a public hearing? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Now, public hearing. So our public hearing tonight is public input is sought on a general plan amendment application submitted by Jason Harris of Fieldstone Homes. This application proposes modifying the future land use map to update the designation for tax ID number T30223212BR2 from commercial to residential. This may allow the area to support various residential uses, including R112, R115, R120, RM1, and RM2 zoning districts. All right, Rick, if you want to get up now and we can discuss this. We just have to follow the rules.
No,
That's all.
I jumped again and I apologize.
Nope, we're
I've been
good.
to enough city council meetings, you'd think I'd have that down. But, so as we have master planned this project and have moved ahead on it, a lot of the people that we're bringing into the development, such as hotels, convenience stores, things that meet the master plan requirements. Part of that is the retail portion of the development. And you've probably heard this before, but anytime you try to bring the retail in, the first thing they want to know is a 1 mile, 5 mile, 10 mile, 20 mile radius of rooftops that are going to participate in that retail so that those retail stores will be successful. And ultimately brings tax dollars into the state, into the city, also the state, but it allows the city to have money in the coffers for improvements, future development, those types of things. So as I have done that, we've reached kind of some challenges because there's not a lot of rooftops in the 1 mile, 5 mile, and 10 mile radiuses to support a lot of the retailers that we're trying to bring to the development. And that being said, we had reached out to several home builders that we're associated with that we feel like build a good product. It's not just a basic product, but a good, solid product. It meets various different types of incomes. And so it has a lot of flexibility. That being said, we talked to Fieldstone Homes, who's Jason Harris, who's on this application. I think Jason is on Zoom. He wasn't able to be here in person. But the biggest thing is in order to do this, we want to provide the city with a good quality product that is going to last a long time, not become an eyesore, or a traffic nightmare or anything like that.
So can I butt in just a little bit?
Sure.
On that's one thing we don't want is eyesore. How do you keep it up? Do you make it an HOA? Do you make it, how do you do it and keep the quality of what you start with? So in 15 years, it looks as good as it did when you build it.
Yeah, I mean, HOAs are always a great way to do that because you have strict ordinances and covenants that you have to go by, and anybody that lives there. You have a homeowners association, you have people that oversee that and basically, keep everybody into.
Is that kind of your plan, or is that something I need to ask Jason?
Yeah, I think
or-
that's probably our plan to
Okay.
do that. I don't know if Jason can hear me. If he is, he can chime in. Jason, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. If you can hear me, happy to chime in wherever needed. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, sorry I have to not be there in person. I'd much rather be there. But yeah, as far as homeowners associations go, there's two components to that, right? Affordability is always a challenge. So adding more, right, as far as cost goes, that's something we're sensitive to. But you can use homeowners associations and covenants and restrictions to make sure that people are keeping up on their yards and to make sure that there's a cohesiveness to the beauty of the project. And that doesn't necessarily come with, a lot of extra add-ons. And so that is something that we look at often in our communities to make sure that there's cohesiveness. Fencing is one of those things that we look at, right? When we put fencing requirements into a community, it's to make sure that you don't have a bunch of different fences and different color fences, that border it, that sort of detract from the look. So that is something absolutely that we look at.
All right. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
No, you're good.
Butt in with that, 'cause I
Nope.
like the fact that you're if you're going to build something, you want to keep it looking nice over time.
So, and I've had an association with Build Stone Homes for over 20 years. I actually used to be a subcontractor for them at one point in time. We used to do a lot of infrastructure and road work for them. So they have a long, good history. They've got really good people working for them, people with vision. And, they want to be around for a long time and they want their product to have a good name and to last. So it's highly important to them. So they're one of the reasons why we got with them and brought them on board to this point. So.
Okay. Any more questions for Rick in the public hearing?
So what is your goal for houses? How many to support your?
Well,
whatever else you're doing
honestly, we need more houses than we can actually put on that site to reach the goal that we have for the retail or potential retail. So it's going to be a phase type thing as far as the retail goes. Most of the retailers that we're dealing with right now want to have, we have two that want 35,000 square foot of retail, and we have another one that wants 72,000 square feet of retail. In order to build a 72,000 area of retail, you've got to have between 300 and 600 homes.
So you're going to have to expand what you're asking for now.
No, he's thinking
Well-
they're hoping that Firelight or somebody else will be within that 1 mile to
Yeah.
fill in the rest of the homes.
We're hoping that there'll be other
3
developers
miles away from you.
or other people that will come in. And I know that there's other projects that are in the works and that type of thing. And we're not looking for this overnight type of deal. We just want to look potentially down the road so that we can, basically fill the area that we've designed for retail and commercial type buildings, but we've got to have some type of immediate residential to support that.
So the plan that we have in the map,
We need to do the public hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah, this is a
Oh,
public
before we
hearing.
ask
Yeah,
questions,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. This is,
Okay.
so yeah, I probably, yeah, this is a public hearing. Thanks, Joey.
Okay.
So any other public questions, public comment? Yeah, if you want to sit down for a second, Rick, we're going to get you back up when we do this again. So does anybody else have anything for the public, from the public about this? Come on up and yeah. What's your name? And you live here in town?
I do.
Great.
My name's Lori Cole. I live on West Terrace Circle. I'm just going to ask this question. When we have a designated commercial, aren't we looking for tax base? And when we all talk about tax base, aren't we all talking about residential not contributing to that or contributing much to that? So if we give away the commercial designation that we've made arrangements for to residential, we're just creating more residents and no tax base, or minimal tax base. Isn't that the case?
Well, it depends on, you can look at it many ways. How much commercial land can Tocqueville ultimately, maintain, or, what's some of the word I'm looking for? Support. How much can we support? We have, how big's your project out there, Rick? Is it 80 acres, 90 acres total? What do you have? The whole Boulder Bridge?
6 acres.
100 and how?
Over 106 acres.
Yeah, so 106 acres in one spot of commercial. And then you have commercial down Bypass Road through different landowners. So there's lots and lots of acres of commercial in Tocqueville. How much can we support?
This isn't the discussion here.
Yes, so yeah, no, that's good. So that's the input, your public hearing.
Okay.
So, okay, thanks. Okay, anybody else? All right, any motion to close our public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Sorry, yeah, any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we are going to move into item G1. Business item G1, discussion and possible action of a general plan amendment application submitted by Jason Harris of Fieldstone Homes. All right, now we're back into more questions. Okay, what do you guys have for questions? What comments? What do we?
I have a lot of comments.
Okay.
We did plan on commercial. We didn't plan on a lot of commercial because we don't have commercial very much down here. As you see, it's all there. And without commercial, we can't survive. It's like the tail wags the dog.
You say that, I know, but
You're going to get all your impact fees and you're going to think you're golden. But then you got to take a few cars off the train, let the caboose catch up. And then pretty soon, all your infrastructure ages out and you cannot, rooftop taxes cannot pay for your infrastructure. It cannot, it will not, it never will.
But the funny thing is
I'm not,
you're saying that, but since 1858, we've never had commercial. We have denied every commercial that's ever, I know, you're saying that.
starved to death.
Yeah, we
because
have.
don't
We have.
And that's a beautiful place for it. It could be one of the biggest industrial parks in southern Utah. And they're needing that everywhere because every industrial park is built out. St. George keeps adding. This is the prime location. If you fill it with houses, we won't be able to support ourselves. Because you got a truck stop and you got an RV park and that's all we have. Firelight's not going to produce nothing for years and years and years until they get their quota up.
Right. Yeah, and I agree.
Where else is the commercial on this? The plan tells you that's commercial. That was desired. That's what the people of the city desired, was have that commercial. Now, the way I see it, you build some houses out there, 37 acres, maybe 350 homes on that 37 acres. It's not enough. So we got to move over here and do more. That's less commercial. There has to be some kind of a balance there. I'm not willing to break open the general plan to show you everything that says. We're committed to this. We let the general plan govern the zoning. Everything in here I look, it discourages upzoning and is trying to increase commercial out in the Anderson Junction area. And I sit here right now listening to maybe some money that's not there money if we let the houses go there. You're going to get a one-time shot in the arm with employees and then 50% property tax. Commercial, 100%. The land value is more. It praises for more. Plus you get the retail end of it. Where's the money going to come from if you turn it all into housing? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a good question. My question is, how many decades will it take to even build that in commercial? That's the other question. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just, we,
Well, that's a good question, Justin.
you know,
because
because we
it
just,
might take 2 decades. So you have 2 decades worth of houses out there, but now your infrastructure's timed out, you have no commercial.
yeah, we have, I just, yeah, there's,
I mean, it's the scenario here is we need to establish a commercial presence. That's our goal out there, is to establish that presence. And if we don't start establishing it first, how can we support the homes? Do you got enough water for that many homes? Who's going to build a new water tank? Because the water tank that's there to service them is too low. They have no pressure in that zone. There's a lot of questions. We don't have the services to donate to it at the moment. I don't want to pay for a new water tank. I just need some commercial. And that was the place, clear back in 2002, that was made. That was designated. We did an SID, everybody wanted commercial out there, and now we're wanting houses.
Could we get some insight as to what the planning commission recommended and why?
planning commission was 3-2.
I heard that was all about affordable housing.
I don't know if affordable housing or was used or workforce housing. There's difference. There's 2 different kinds of housing. Some that policemen and city workers and nurses and teachers can afford, and then there's low income housing.
What is a low income and what is the price range for?
I have no idea. I have no idea what affordable. I don't think anybody,
2025, it's 185,000. Are you willing to build a 3-bedroom home, 1,500 to 2,000, and sell it for 185 to 225,000? No way. They can't afford to do that. That land they're developing on is really expensive to, you can see all the boulders and the struggle they're having. So they can't sell those houses at a price point that a factory worker can afford. It's 36%. He can't go over 36% of his income, or he'll never get a loan on that house. Even if it's $185,000, figure out what 36% is as. If you don't make that money, you can't live and you can't buy those houses. There's nobody around that'll sell a house for what I think I'd like to buy a house for. I'd love to get a starter home, 3-bedroom, maybe 1,200, 1,500 square feet for under 300,000, but it's never going to happen. So build them, have no commercial.
they're not saying no commercial, they're saying portion of it.
The commercial the whole commercial concept from 2 weeks ago has changed. So we don't know what's going out there, but it is prime land for industrial, anything like that. That's prime stuff out there.
Jenny, you had,
May I comment?
absolutely, you're on the planning and zoning.
Commissioner Hustler wasn't able to attend the one where we discussed this, and I'd be
Okay.
happy to
Yes.
reiterate some of the things we talked about. We did talk about affordable housing because, as we all know, it is a very grave concern that everyone's facing here. And we talked about it on both sides of the issue. I'm very in favor of having more housing out there. To me, it makes sense that if we were to have dense housing anywhere, it would be out by the freeway and by the commercial areas. This gentleman has pointed out that we can't have commercial unless there is residential to support the commercial. I brought up that we have some of the newest apartments in Hurricane that are coming in are about $1,900 a month to $2,000 a month. So one of the most sensible economic ways for us to lower the price, or at least slow housing costs from rising dramatically, is by meeting the demand, by creating more product. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and I moved in favor of this general plan amendment, but only 2 of us carried that, and then Commissioner Haymore moved that we recommend against it, in spite of him saying that he has like 6 grandkids living in his properties because none of them can afford housing. The median home price in Washington County in April of 2025 was $522,000. You have to make about $102,000 a year at current interest rates with 5% down to do that. So I think that Commissioner Olson is making a valid point that none of these are going to be close to that. However, if they are more dense, they will be lower than the median, because the median, that tends to be like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Another issue that we brought up, the general plan, some of the top preferences are to preserve agriculture, water conservation, and preserving open space. Dense housing is one of the best ways to preserve all of those things that are high values for the members of our community who participated in the survey that went into the general plan. Those are some of the things that we talked about, and I was sad that my motion didn't carry, but we were split on this issue. So.
Thank you.
I think it's a good time to talk about density.
Yep.
Because our code only allows on the highest density out here for 10 units per acre. That's not high density. In between the bypass road from the start to the end, there's 5,600 homes, or maybe a little bit more, already approved. That can do almost double that density. So when I look at a project and everybody wants to talk about, and I'm not trying to say yes or no in any way, but density in this case is 10 units per acre. It's not very high density.
Right.
Therefore, the cost is going to keep going up. Like, you can't put enough homes to make this high density, as our code states. So when everybody keeps having this conversation, that's the end of
10 acres at this point.
10 units per
10
acre.
units per acre.
And Commissioner Harrison brought that up too.
Yeah.
She said she feels that there are a lot of other things approved, and so it wasn't as urgent of an issue for her, and that's why she voted against it.
Yeah, and you guys had a great meeting. I watched it live in it, and you guys brought up a lot of good points. The one other thing that I'd like to point out is that, in this highway commercial zone, you've got, does that look like about 500 or 600 feet from the road is where the first houses are? It's really close to that, to the highway too. Like you might come in this way and you might come over, but there's a strip mall and a parking lot, and you're right into the houses. So when eventually in every single city, you're going to phase from commercial into residential, but this is a really short phase. This is 500-600 feet off the freeway, and you're phasing right into high density or density. So that's kind of my concerns, is that like it's right in there, and it's right against the road, really.
Yes, it is. I want to talk about leakage too.
Which?
Leakage. As soon as you start building houses before commercial, when this was made, there was 29,000 vehicles going through there every day. Now it's close to 45,000 2 years later. And you're not picking up any of that. You're letting it all drive by. You've got to get some immediate commercial out there to generate those funds to be able to support their housing.
I understand.
I mean, it's pretty much, this is a scientific idea behind, engineers doing this, but they're explaining the leakage, and it reduce the overall leakage through commercial growth. And this isn't commercial growth. Maybe it's just not quite the time for it.
So I'm concerned that what other possibilities a developer could do on this land if we don't kind of work with them.
Well,
So
how are you going to work with them when you got to build the houses now, and that's not enough, so we got to build more? Firelight's 3 miles away. They're way out from building this way. Lowell's is way out. He can't meet the quota he needs to support the commercial.
Well, I don't think they were going to get commercial immediately. We're not going to get commercial anywhere immediately.
Not unless you develop it and show it. Here's 5 acres, commercial, prime commercial lot here in Tokerville.
Right.
Come, if they can afford it. But it's more expensive out here to build where they're building, because it's same goes with the houses. So that drives house price up, because my guess per lot is going to be $45,000 each lot just to get the improvements in there and haul off all the rocks. Unfortunately, I'm just concerned by not sticking, the general plan is to guide the zoning. And I can see the concept of some houses out there, but I can see the concept more valuable being commercial property. And putting houses this close sets commercial property Maybe the industrial property can go further in the back, but then you're surrounding everything, the houses all with either industrial or commercial or.
I'm concerned with the way the state's pushing homes prices, trying to get home prices down.
We're a city of
There,
5,000.
I know, we're not gonna be there for very long. I'm looking at what they're doing out in Kanab, the developer out in Kanab. And Todd, if you wanna speak to that one.
Yeah, that doesn't apply to us after I.
Doesn't
No, because I further looked it up and that's for a county development.
Oh, it's county development.
It does not apply to a municipality.
Yeah, but this, I did talk to I had a county commissioner call me yesterday and wanted to know about this piece of property. And I said, well, we're working on it. And they said, well, they've come to the county and possibly decided maybe wanted to de-annex out of Tokerville. So, and I'm not looking for that at all. I want the revenue, whether we get 50% or 60% commercial and 40% houses or something. I don't want it to leave Tokerville. And I don't know what the legality is on that and how that would happen and how, because Tokerville doesn't actually technically provide anything on the west side of the freeway to them at this point.
We do water.
We have water. So how much of the infrastructure's in? No, it's to the other side of the freeway, but there's nothing in.
This particular property owner?
Yeah,
Oh, to that property, you get, yeah,
There goes their
basically.
PID, there goes everything.
I know.
That's.
I know.
See,
I
yeah.
was just, the county commissioner called me. I didn't look for anybody.
Yeah.
So that's just what they just was asking what I knew about it. So, and I'm not saying that's happened. I'm just, Victor called me and was questioning me. So anyways, yeah, other questions?
Yeah, Victor's out of St. George, so he has so much commerce that they're rich.
No, Victor lives in Laverican, but,
Well, but he's,
oh yeah,
he's down there.
yeah.
So I mean, that story that's not applicable to us. We're hurting. We created this to develop revenue and we're throwing it away.
So we worked, I agree with Wayne, we worked really hard to develop the general plan. We worked on it, our residents gave us input, we had engineering, so we worked really hard developing our general plan. And we made it so that it would take a little bit of work for us to amend it or change it. And we did that purposely because we were happy with the document that we did and the way we drew the map up and the zoning areas that we did that. We did in the general plan talk about on page 29 where we talked about moderate income housing elements. And we did talk about one of the items in there was zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income residential development and commercial mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors, commercial centers, and employment centers. So this does kind of fit the definition of that. If we were to want to amend the general plan. Couple questions that I have, and Ben or Darren or the gentleman back here, somebody wants to define them for me. How do you define affordable housing? And how do you define what the mayor was talking about is workforce housing?
There are definitions, there's statutory definitions, and it depends on what context you're talking about. If you give me like 1 minute, I'll pull up the definition and read it because it might be
Perfect.
helpful. Yeah.
It has, some of them, it has to be affordable to people who make between 30 and 80% of the median income in the county. The
So-
median income in our county in the most recent data I could find was in the census, and it was in 2023, and it was in the high 70s or 80s. So we're about 20,000 a year short as far as affording a median home price.
So I'll tell you it varies depending on the context you're talking about, but I'm looking at LEDMA, so the statutes governing land use, and I'm just looking at the basic definition for affordable housing. It says, affordable housing means a dwelling offered for sale to an owner occupier at a purchase price affordable to a household with a gross income of no more than 120% of area median income for the county in which the residential unit is offered for sale, or offered for rent at a rental price affordable to a household with a gross income of no more than 80% of area median income for the county in which the residential unit is offered for rent. So you have caps based on area median income.
So Rick,
2025, Tokerville, affordable housing cost plan status. Monthly payment of $1,258 would support a mortgage of approximately $185,000. based on 30-year fixed at 4.8, 185,000. And there's another 210. Who's going to sell you a house for that price? Nobody in the world is going to give you a house.
Were you guys looking for affordable housing or workforce type housing, or what were you? I mean, I don't know if you said affordable housing, or I mean, where are you? I don't want to be up there or.
We're entertaining affordable housing. We haven't defined a master layout of this project yet or anything like that. That's why we always want the city's input. As far as the densities go, you always have to have a balance between retail and residential. Multiple projects that I've done throughout the state over the years, we've always brought in a little bit of retail up front, but it always stagnates because you don't have enough rooftops to support it. The nice thing about this project is it is literally not far from I-15, which is great visibility on that side of the freeway. That is why we've already got a large amount of retailers that are highly, highly interested, but they're corporate people. They don't care about as much about the density of cars going up and down I-15. Their models are always about rooftops. And so I think, you know, it's my opinion. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years. I've done multiple projects around the state that have mixed use, that have affordable housing, have higher end housing, has a retail component to it. And if you can discern a balance, which we feel like that's why we did the 34-acre area, we felt like that was a great balance, and also still gives plenty of room for more commercial to come years and years down the road. It's not like you're going to build 350 units and we're going to fill the whole thing up with commercial. That's not going to happen. It takes time. It's, you know, I was involved in Thanksgiving Point, and my partners and I bought out the Fox Family Dairy in 1992. And it was a great master plan that we did out there. We ran into a lot of issues with roads and things like that. And, you know, that was always a concern because, you know, Thanksgiving Point is over 200 acres. And all everybody could see was it was going to be mass commercial. Well, we were trying to sell that property for 15 years to commercial people. And we couldn't get anybody in there because we didn't have enough immediate rooftops. Everybody was downtown Lehigh. And as soon as we started building out homes out by the golf course and we put 425 homes out there, then all of a sudden everybody wanted to be at that location because you created the rooftops. We created the balance that you need so that you could feed the commercial part, which is, you know, great tax revenue for the city long-term. This project's unique because we have plenty of area that more and more commercial can come down the road as more and more houses are built, which are bound to come at some point. And you keep that money coming into the city. The other thing is the great thing about that location for both balances is you want to bring in money that's not local money. The key to retailing is to bring money that's coming from Utah County, Salt Lake County, Weber County, Box Elder County, all the way to Vegas and Clark County. You want to bring those people into that area, but you've got to have your day-to-day base of rooftops in order to give you that maintenance and support. It's great on the weekends, but what do you do during the week? And that's always a retailer's concern, as well as the hotel groups. We have multiple hotel groups that want to come in there. I am not under NDA. We have Maverick is signed to come into that location. They're ready to go. We're 45 days, I think, right now away from them closing on that property. I've seen all their preliminary designs. I've been working with their design team, trying to make the roads and traffic flows and all that type of thing work for all the cars and trucks and things that are going to be coming into that area. That's a huge, huge plus for Tokerville. But at the same time, their concern was rooftops. Even though Maverick is the big name in the state of Utah to stop and get a drink and go to the restroom, their first word out of their mouth was, what kind of rooftops are you going to have? Because there's no rooftops out there. And so that's, kind of the whole design of this and the reason why we've proceeded like we have. I think Jerry Eves, he's on the line there. He wanted to make a comment too, if that's okay.
Yeah, Jerry.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you allowing a few minutes of comments. The one thing I want to remind everybody is when this was put forth for the initial PID approval, if you'll go look at your packet, this is the design that was approved with that. We had through the city and through what was required by the state, there was a marketing firm put together to do market analysis, not only for the density and the absorption rates, but also for the tax. And if I provided, it's been about a month and a half ago, to both Planning Commission and to the City Council, 2 copies, one with the residential involved and one with just strictly commercial. Now, we did get our PID approved based upon tax revenue. The very first PID that we had approved had a net tax value of $4.7 million for us to do that backbone infrastructure. Last October, when we went to fund this, they noticed that we didn't have the proper zone to do that original master plan. We went in for a text amendment, if you'll recall, and that was denied. So that brought us to this point. During that time, to get our PID to fund, I had to redesign that whole project with total commercial. Now, it's not industrial, it's a total commercial. When they did the market analysis on that for total tax revenue, and that's including the 50% revenue off that, the value of that bond dropped $1.4 million. Now, I gave both of those analyses to you, and so our tax revenue, or the tax base for the town and for the developer, just in that going from residential to industrial, dropped the total tax base by about a third. When you put the rooftops with those retail and the balance of the commercial that's over there, your tax revenue, even when you're giving credit for the homeowners, the 50% homeowners, puts that tax valuation up closer to $200 million, whereas if it's total commercial, it's about 127. And I provided those to you. I don't know if you ever got around to read them, but that really puts in perspective if we're looking at tax base. Absolutely. As far as density, 10 units per acre is close, but high density should be 16 or more. We don't want that. We would like to be right around 12 units per acre when it goes back, because that's what this originally was approved and designed for when we did the PID.
Hey, Jerry,
So-
remember when I asked about that on the PID? I said, why does this even say residential? There's not even residential in this area. And no one could answer my question?
Well, and that was when if you'll recall that conversation, it was, we are going to have this rezoned to residential. It never went any further than that at that time. There was some things that transpired both with the city and ourselves. And our 4-month, I think we approved this in December of 2 years ago. And it was supposed to be in place in May, and it didn't actually come into place till almost a year later. But you're absolutely correct. This is almost going back and fixing after the barn doors open, but it was originally planned this way and approved this way.
Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thanks. I'll mute now.
Hey, this is Jason Harris with Fieldstone too. I have a few comments if I can also share.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go to the slide that's up on the screen, just because this has been kind of circling around. What is affordable housing? This is the legislation that is most recently approved in order to try to clear up some of that. And the 120% AMI is how the state has essentially defined that. And when you look at the what was mentioned before, the county median home price of $522,000, 100% AMI gets most families into a range where they can afford a lot of the housing that can be offered in these density ranges that we're talking about for the community. So what I wanted to just do and offer up here for the conversation is, like, we're the home builder. We understand these parts of it. And if you have questions about, what the housing means and what it can look like and why it's so important for this area and others, like, I'm here. I just want you to know I'm happy to answer questions about that and see if there's a way I can help you feel more comfortable that with the types of housings that go into zones that have densities like this, and just be helpful in that way. Because I think it's important that we continue to look for ways to provide housing options, even in areas where our general plans state that it should be commercial. And if you went back to your slide that shows that original one that shows the general plan, is that possible to click back over to that?
Yeah. Give us 1 sec.
In your opinion, while you're on that, how many units per acre do you think you need to complete this project?
So that's a great question. And what we're essentially proposing is what Jerry just talked about, which is 12 units per acre. And what that'll allow us to do is have enough flexibility in the zoning to look at all product types. One thing that Fieldstone Homes does, especially after we know what we can go and do, which is why we have these conversations, is we do a full market analysis. We look for where there's gaps in the market, what is most needed from a housing perspective, and having up to 12 units per acre creates enough flexibility in all the different product types, from small lot, single family, to townhomes, and even what they call the missing middle housing types, right? Which can be triplexes and twin homes and things like that basically have gone away in the market. We look at all of those as possibilities, and we may even incorporate lots different types of those within a community to try to create variety. When I look at this, this document here from your master plan, and you see the title that says "Understanding the Land Use Map," it clearly states that, unlike a zoning map, which details permitted uses and exact properties, this map represents a wide range of possible land use types and densities, right, that you can pursue through zoning. This is a document that is just a guide, and not that I'm saying you should deviate from it drastically, but it really is just the discussion that we're having here matches that description perfectly, and in that we are outlining for you the reason why housing does make sense in this location, and how it will help support what your future commercial will be. I'm not even a commercial developer, but I understand well enough that until you have the rooftops, and when you say you're giving away taxes, well, you're not getting them right now, right? Like having the rooftops to help support and guarantee that you'll have those is really an important component. And wherever we develop, in every city, that is what's happening. And when it comes to housing in this category of 12 units per acre, right, it is a good location for that. And you see it next to more intense uses like commercial as you sort of transition and buffer into these areas. So I guess I just want to be an advocate for this and for housing because of how important it is. And I also want to just reiterate, I'm here to talk about what that can look like and mean, because and do it from a standpoint of who Fieldstone is, because we care about the quality and type of housing that goes into your communities. We're super excited to be part of this project in this community, and it is a gateway project for you, right? And so we get that, we understand that, and I think that's ultimately why Rick and Jerry chose Fieldstone. It's a very competitive market out there for us builders, but they really did look at us and say, gosh, we see what you do. This is a gateway project to the city, and it will be something that is seen, by all the passersby, right? And so this is a good opportunity for us to sort of showcase that for you as well. So just really excited to be part of the conversation.
So just a follow-up question on that, is it, our code only allows for 10 units per acre. So is the intent to come back and try to get more dense zoning created in the city? Or if you need to live inside of the 10 units per acre, is it doable?
Well, my comment is this. We are. So no, we're not trying to trick anybody here. Yes, 12 units per acre is what we're after. And it is because it creates that flexibility in product type. So we can really figure out how to best service that,
what I'm saying is that
moderate income housing. So yeah, that is what we're after. If it ends up being 10, it's a math equation, right? We try to figure it out, but the difference between 10 and 12 really is not significant for this discussion, other than we're focusing on density rather than what's the right thing for the property, and that's what we're after.
They will have to amend the
Yeah,
RM2 zone
would
though,
have
if
to
they
come
want to
back
do
to
that.
us.
I'm gonna chime in and just make you guys aware of something new that was created in LEDMA within the last year. So within the last year, there's what's called a home ownership promotion zone that cities can establish. And essentially you can take a parcel, if you feel that affordable housing or high density housing makes sense in a particular area, it's the code's way of letting a city kind of get ahead of it. So what you can do is you can designate an area as a home ownership promotion zone. It can't be an area more than 10 contiguous acres, so fairly small. And then you have to impose certain requirements on it. So you have to allow at least 6 planned housing units per acre. At least 60% of the housing units within the promotion zone have to be affordable with the definition he just showed you, or Emily just showed you. And all of the homes within the promotion zone must be deed restricted to require owner occupation. You can also restrict short-term rentals, so you can just not allow them at all in the zone. So just an interesting tool that the legislature recently created that allows cities to have a little more control over where they're putting this high-density housing. At the end of the day, from a legal perspective, right, there's not much insight I have to offer because this is a decision for council as far as what they want to see in this area. But I just think it's important to be aware of some of these things that are available.
Thank you.
And Banner, Darren, the impact fees, residential versus commercial, is that really a valid argument? Because, at the end of the day, it takes care of what the infrastructure is, right, regardless. So is that?
Income,
Yeah.
sales tax. income.
Sales tax on
Well, yeah, no,
commercial.
I'm talking about impact fees first.
Oh,
So is there some delineation between getting impact fees for residential versus commercial as far as maintaining or developing the infrastructure?
I'd say probably not relevant to the conversation because commercial impact fees are calculated based on an ERU. So you're trying to get it back to the number of equivalent housing units, or in the case of stormwater, it's acreage, impervious acres.
Okay.
So the idea is that it would be about the same based on the level of impact.
Okay. As far as city services and law enforcement, have we seen a trend residential versus commercial, and what is taking more of city services and law enforcement services?
Not existing within Tocqueville.
Yeah. Tocqueville.
Yeah, because we don't really have commercial, but we can look at somewhat that crime report. We are seeing a little bit more for Settlers Junction and the RV park, which is taking a little bit of services. If you look at historically, well, I don't know, historically is the right word, but if you look at words if you look at hotels in different areas, they do take more of a law enforcement. So, and possibly services, correct? Could you comment on that?
Yeah, a lot of the reasons that the legislature has allowed for commercial entities to generate more property for municipalities is because of the increased demand. So they're creating more demand on services than a typical like residential neighborhood. And so you do have there's a disproportionate impact on, depending on the type of business and the market. I mean, it's really difficult to establish that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's fairly well established that.
The only opposite to that would be the development at Telegraph and Washington Parkway in Washington.
Yeah.
Correct? That would be
Right.
the opposite of that, where they do have a lot of.
And I can certainly speak to that. I've actually talked at length to the city's leadership, administrative leadership, regarding that specific area. And so there's kind of two sides of that coin. The first is the subsidized housing, which in this conversation nobody's talked about. That does have an increased demand.
Okay.
The other side, which is just traditional market-based, doesn't create an increase in demand. It has the perception that it does because you are packing, it is more dense within the number of acres that development is. But on a per occupant basis, the city's leadership is that it does not create a higher demand, disproportionate demand than a typical housing.
Okay. And then we've discussed tax revenue. So I understand commercial versus residential. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I mean, if you talk about initially we would get the residential there, so we would start having some revenue. Eventually, we might get some commercial and things like that going. So I mean, initially we're going to have residential and then we're going to have industrial that's going to come in too. So can you discuss that? And also, again, city services as far as maintaining the infrastructure in that area, whether it's infrastructure for commercial versus residential.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this during strategic planning earlier this year, the impact on city services and the difficulty that bedroom communities have in maintaining infrastructure in the long term. I think that generally speaking, a lot of what's been said this evening regarding city services and infrastructure maintenance, really, it's difficult for residents to wholly bear the burden of long-term infrastructure maintenance. Developers come in, put in nice shiny infrastructure, and then 30 years later, it's who's left to pay for that. The property tax alone generally doesn't cover the cost of that infrastructure.
Okay.
That said, I also agree with the fact that I can't speak to the economic viability of this project. However, residential dwelling units do support retail infrastructure as well. So there's truth to that side. You can't have a wholly, I don't think there's many municipalities in the country that are just, solely commercial, right? So you really have to have a mix of both. One supports the other.
Okay. And then how about water? We always talk about water. Is there residential versus commercial water usage? Anybody, feel free.
So are you just talking about, you've got water supply as basically what you're talking about, and water supply for the Anderson Junction area, specifically that area comes from the Cottom Well.
Okay.
And whether that's a commercial or a residential water, it's the same water, and that is supplied by the district.
So
Now
that's
the
not
district,
really,
and the district has developed, and we've talked about all of the water conservation plans that the
Right.
district's talking about. All these things are to help us to get to 20 years. And at the same time, as I go to those water district meetings, they're continuing to develop a plan that will always be 20 years out.
Okay.
Not to let it go 20 years and they go, okay, now what are we going to do? But when
Okay.
they get to that 20 years, they're going to go, okay, this is it. Part of those things are the reuse water.
Right. No, I
the
understand all
ag
that.
conversion.
Okay.
So yeah.
I understand that. So basically, the answer is it doesn't matter whether it's residential or commercial in that area. There's going to be water and the water usage.
the source-
It's going to be
yeah.
source. Okay.
The source comes from the same, and then the water district, as we are part of that agreement with the water district, as many communities in the county,
Okay.
is to supply water to our city.
Supply that water.
It would be the water district.
It'd come out of
We don't get no money off the water.
Through the city's infrastructure.
Yeah.
So it'd be the same water system.
we buy a wholesale and sell retail.
just like we do right now.
So the
in the
infrastructure is
energy
yours. Once it's in, it's all yours.
Yeah. Like,
The infrastructure is Tokerville City's, correct.
Okay. And then,
And-
Can never support
And to sit, to,
the depreciation of your system.
right. As like Ben was saying here, was that development comes in, puts that infrastructure in, and is required to put that infrastructure in. But in 30 years, there needs to be a component to pay for it, as it fails.
okay.
And that's why in years past, when Tokerville City in the 2013 era, we took out a lot of grants. We had to go get loans and grants to replace that water system that was failing. We were losing close to 40% of our water.
Okay. And then I know we talked about that Tokerville needs commercial. There is, and again, this is long-term with Firelight, some of the other developments that the mayor spoke of. And then we also have the property on this side of Anderson Junction
the east side, yeah.
that the
Water district.
water district owns, and that
It's all
is-
the yellow up there on the.
yeah, no, and that is also slated for commercial, zone commercial. So that is another area where we would have commercial. So if we were to do this housing, we're still not,
That's zone.
it's zone commercial, correct?
There is.
No.
Yeah,
No.
It is. On the Glen Hunziker property, yes, commercial.
That gray is planned development. The yellow is residential. The green is open space. Red is only commercial.
Yeah, and the road comes.
I can see the highway, I think.
Yeah,
The
this
water
is that
district
lot that
property
they're
where
grading
taking
on
all
right
the
now.
stuff off
it's
the
the water district area, right? Is what?
It's highway commercial.
I couldn't
Highway
give you,
commercial, okay.
I couldn't give you how
Little
many
piece in
acres,
there,
but
maybe.
yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. So that's another potential area for commercial.
And behind it is planned for residential still.
Right.
Well, and if you look at the, down through the Firelight development, that's all along the corridor is
Commercial.
designated, that commercial area as well.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
That little red way down there.
All the way down the new parkway.
Well,
There's a whole bunch through the gray that's not
This is
highlighted.
MPDO, yeah, but they do have a lot of commercial planning areas.
Exactly. They have a lot of
You have to
commercial.
look at their actual plan, PDO plan
The
to.
same thing with the top landowners on the north end. They have a lot of commercial planned in there as well.
But it doesn't, that doesn't support any industrial there in that area down in front.
Well, this isn't, none of that's in zoned industrial out there now. It's all zoned commercial.
Well, it's zone, it's.
It's BMP.
It has the
BMP.
MPDO and the MPD, it's a whole different, it's really, you're looking at kind of a little bit like, and apples to pears a little bit there.
Light industrial, business manufacturing zones, or other similar or commercial oriented zone. So that red is not commercial, it's industrial, light industrial.
Those both.
It
is
has
what
all
says.
kinds of opportunities there.
Yeah, from,
In that area that we're talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just kind of furthers the idea that, yeah, we may be losing a little bit of commercial in that area if we were to approve.
You're looking at 36 acres, you said, Rick? Is that what you're,
Yeah, so we,
34 acres?
so if we were to approve it, we may be losing commercial there, but we're also still having the commercial and like the mayor was talking about, how much commercial can we support in Tokerville? I don't have the answer to that. I
You
don't
want to
know.
support all you can get, but that little square is going to grow. It's not going to just be that, it's going to be more and more and more and more.
But
Because if you're building houses and you're making a ton of money off your houses, why would you want to do something else? If you're a developer, because you don't care about the commercial end of the town and the sales tax we get, we inherit the problem. And that's why all zoning land use proposals in conflict with the general plan should not be supported. And there's a reason before this.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Well, if we
I
can't,
understand.
there's no point in having a general plan if we can't change the general plan.
Well,
But
there's no point in having a general plan at all if you put all this in there and you don't want to even do anything. We have to balance this out carefully. So what are you going to get? The horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse?
I understand what you're saying.
30 years is the deadline. How many years is it going to take to put enough commercial up there to support the infrastructure? And what is your anticipation for when commercial might come in?
They got Maverick
That's
now.
correct. If anybody wants to answer that.
I can answer that.
I mean, what's the anticipation? I know you got a price point on all your homes. You've already done your homework on that. If you want to tell us.
Well,
what
we
your
already
legal
have,
price
we
is.
already have Maverick that wants to come in. We already have Marriott Hotels that wants to come in. We have Quality Inn that wants to come in. I mean, those, even though they're hotels that are a retail component, right? And so that is still tax base that comes into the city off those motel rooms. The other retail that we have, I mean, I have retail guys out of Salt Lake right now ready to pull the trigger to come down here and do 40,000 square feet of retail. But their biggest hangup is we don't have enough immediate rooftops. They don't feel like they can pull enough traffic, just the traffic off I-15 to support it. And the retail, we're not talking a Target or a Walmart or something like that. These are smaller type businesses. These are hair salons, auto parts stores, that caliber of retail, which is great. I mean, everybody needs it. And it also creates immediate need for not only the people going down I-15, but the residents of Tokyo. So, yeah, it comes to the same thing as you said, you know, it's either the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart. I understand that.
Step in our shoes and then decide how broke we are and we can't afford to do anything because we got to have the cart first and no horse to pull it.
I understand that.
That Maverick right there will probably produce more revenue to the city than 30, 40 homes.
Guaranteed it will. But it's still not enough. It's still not enough to stand alone.
No, it's not.
How many years, you know, until we can get another commercial building or retailer in here, because some other developer build enough homes to support it. And that, you know, that's a tough model. I've seen it over and over and over, city after city after city. And
won't you be able to project rooftops out of Firelight too? They're going to grow immensely fast. And those will come your way.
I'm not involved in that development. I don't know really what they're going to do, how soon they're going to do it. You know, my main focus is I'm a commercial builder. I build commercial buildings. I don't build residential. I deal with retailers all over the state of Utah, all over Colorado, Arizona, you know, all the immediate states around. And there's this model that we're trying to do involving Fieldstone Homes so that we can still maintain a good quality product. That's the model that works. That's the model that's worked forever. I mentioned Thanksgiving Point. We had lots sat out there, commercial lots that sat out there for 15 years. We were trying to sell them and we couldn't sell them. You know, I brought Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's and all that to the state of Utah. Originally, we were going to put them at Thanksgiving Point, but the guys at Pilgrim's Landing across the street says, well, we'll give you the land for free. Well, I couldn't do that because all my infrastructure, I had PIDs and all types of things involved. But the commercial went across the street and they struggled. They struggled because they didn't have enough rooftops to keep them alive. And then Pilgrim's Landing started building out residential across the freeway. All those homes went above that. And then all the retail that went in below that, I was able to bring more retail into that area because it could support it. Because I-15 alone will not support this retail. It won't do it. You got to have rooftops.
So to your point, Wayne, you were talking about this area with the houses and then they're going to come ask for more and ask for more. Right now, they're only asking for this specific, however many
34 acres.
34 acres. So if they were to come back and ask for more, they're going to have to go through the whole same thing, the general plan amendment, through the planning commission, general plan amendment, back for the zoning change, all that stuff. So we could possibly approve this specifically. They came back for more. I can't say what we're going to do. It might not even be us sitting up here, but they could come back and we could say, nah, we're not going to amend the general plan this time. So I'm just saying that is.
Once you do it, tell them to stop.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's weird.
So my experience has been in this type of situation that you're all faced with, is if you're going to make changes that are going to accommodate you long-term. So, I mean, right now you have 10 units to the acre. I understand the concerns. You want more affordable housing, right? 10 units to the acre makes it really tough to make those units affordable because of your upfront costs, right? But you make it 16 units to the acre, and all of a sudden it becomes much more affordable because you're able to can make more density in a concentrated area. Therefore, your construction and labor and everything that's involved in that goes way, way down. So you're able to sell units that meet, affordable housing criteria and that type of thing. So just, keep that in mind. I've walked through this with multiple cities in the past. I went through this with Willard City like 5 years ago because I own 16 acres right off of I-15 there, right by the Flying J. And, their maximum units were 7 units to the acre. And so they decided to go to a maximum of 20 units an acre so that they had flexibility, so that each project that came in, the city council and the planning commission had say in, how many units do we want to allow in this immediate area? What kind of schools do we have? What kind of fire services? What kind of police force? All those kinds of things that it gave them the flexibility to do that.
I got one more, Mayor.
Yes.
My last one is, Darren, if you can talk about this a little bit, and that's the road study that was done. And if we could talk about specifically, one of the concerns I had, and I think some of the other council members have, was as the development grows, the roads would need to increase, I guess. But how do we, as this development, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, how do we prevent the city from getting stuck with the road improvements?
So let's, one good way is to look at that map in your packet. I think it's the map. Yeah. It says main access there that comes under the freeway.
What page are you on?
It's your PDF that says maps. That's it right there.
Okay.
So as you look at that, basically that traffic study was taken into account, takes into account this residential, the hotels, the different things as it talks about in there.
Okay.
It talks about there's not, I want to call it failure because that's the wrong verbiage, but it talks about insufficient. And what it's talking about is that at the main first build out, when the first phase that they are creating, which is 4 5-acre lots, that included basically just the commercial components of this. It didn't take into the other parts of that, but it says at a future point that this main access will need to be the full, I believe it's 108-foot wide right of way or something to that effect. I could be wrong in the construction plans that they're building right now. They're not building that exact thing right at this moment. They're building 2 lanes, which was one up and one back. I'd have to look at the plans, but we went through the engineering, the study with our city engineers, our engineering groups, and we actually had another consultant that's a traffic engineer review this traffic impact study that was given to us on this. And they basically said, yes, this will be fine, but at the next phases, as we look at this, as it continues to grow to different phases, or if the commercial component or the residential component comes into that, then that main access will need to widen at different phases as you start to put more and more homes, things such as that. That's what that talks about, and it talks about the main access there. Because right now it will just be 1 lane up, 1 lane back,
Right.
and a Jersey barrier on one side that will allow for the Mills Lane access.
Okay, so so we're gonna pass that on to the developer?
Yeah,
At that time.
that's part of it.
So none of that is gonna fall back on.
100%. It's just like,
But it'll be incremental as
they build.
development.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so when they come in engineering wise and they come in and they say, hey, we want to build another, I don't know, we want to build another, we want to build some, whatever they are allowed to build in the commercial area there.
Another hotel, whatever.
Whatever hotel,
Okay.
anything on
Yeah.
that, anything on that list.
Okay.
We will take a close look at that and say, okay, what is the traffic patterns? What is
Okay.
the increase of this specific use of what you're proposing here?
Okay.
And we'll make sure that all of those streets and roads are operating at a level of service, calls it LOS. in there as a level of service. You want to continue to always have a great level of service.
Okay.
The component, the other letter that you were talking about there talks about the Sonora development.
Right.
That was an addendum letter that I asked for and the engineers, because basically we just didn't realize, or we were saying, hey, if something develops outside of our city limits and is using our infrastructure, what does that do to this intersection? And so that's what that two-page letter is addressing.
So, okay, since you brought that up, if there are developments that are around our city, not in the city, but they're gonna impact our city infrastructure, is there recourses or is there ways that we are going to be able to, what am I looking for, Ben? Collect money or collect something out of that?
Yeah, and that's actually something we're actively working on.
Okay.
That developer's currently in the process of proposing an agreement with the city.
But like other ones too, I mean, I know there's other ones around the city that may be impacting our roads and things like that. So, okay, so that is stuff that we can, okay.
Yeah, basically if they're using our infrastructure and things like that, it's, like I say, Ben knows more about the
Okay.
logistics than I do, but
Okay,
yes, there are tools
okay,
to come to.
perfect. That's all. Thank you, guys. That's all I got, Mayor.
All right, anybody have any other questions, comments?
Well, I think we had, I have to think about the Tocqueville citizens here. And I look at the survey where they want to provide for commercial development adjacent to the bypass and the Anderson Junction area. So when we put the general plan together, we had designated that area. As a matter of fact, it says that we need to concentrate on the west side with visibility and access from I-15. So I hear the word retail going around a lot, but I can tell you this much. I believe that we're going to have enough retail come in through Firelight with those commercial designated areas. What I saw here adjacent to the freeway, things like industrial distribution centers, data centers, and things like this, that I saw along that corridor along the I-15. It's obvious they're not going to have enough housetops to support what they're trying to get. And there's no way that I want to look at the possibility of changing our ordinance from 10 to 12 and possibly more, and possibly coming back again and looking at grabbing another area to convert that to residential as well. So I'm concerned about the fact that that's going to be, we talked about controlled growth in this city. I don't think that's controlled growth, putting 12 units per acre in there, right next to the freeway. I think most of the retail business they're going to get is coming right off the freeway. And that's why we didn't want that leaking down to Hurricane and Leeds. We wanted it leaking right here off of exit 27. And the more commercial that we put in that particular area, that's the designated area that the citizens of this town wanted commercial development. And so I don't want to look at other areas in this town for commercial. That's the area that we've designated. And we don't have any other alternatives for other commercial areas, in my opinion. So I think we held Firelight to 2 homes per acre. Their density in some areas might be higher, but overall, we held them to that low standard of controlled growth with low density in that area that they're developing. And why are we going to change this zone? Actually, it's just one parcel. I've never known us to change a zone for one parcel, but that's what we're trying to do here. And on that one parcel, we're looking at 10 units per acre per ordinance, but they need 12 to make it work. And so now we've got to change the ordinance to make it work. And then they may need to change more of that commercial to residential in the future in order to get the housetops that they need. And I can't swallow that. I can't be held accountable for putting that that residential area in that.
I'm hearing you.
commercial
My
space.
concern though is with all this industrial, commercial, where are we gonna get the manpower to work it? Where are they gonna live? Where, they're not gonna live in Tocqueville.
We got 5,000 homes coming in.
Yeah, we do, but it's Firelight, at this point, has nothing, the only thing they propose is 55 plus. That's all we've seen. That's all we've done. That's all we have at this point is 55 plus.
Well, we've got phase 6 that we're gonna talk
do.
about tonight.
We do.
And that's high density area that we're working with
So,
right now.
yeah,
And they've got retail that's gonna support those housetops. If that unit up there, there are 34 acres up there, is supposed to support Firelight's retail, they're not gonna get it, because the retail Firelight's gonna get is from their commercial business. And I go up the road and you go up to cities like Beaver and these other cities along the road, there are Mavericks along these small towns that are being supported by traffic on I-15. So my stance is we need controlled growth in this town. Over 10 units per acre is not controlled growth. Cramming that many people into that small of an area right next to the freeway. And then looking at the need for schools that are going to support that area. I just don't see that many people in that little square. And that's kind of where I stand, Mayor. I'm sorry.
that's fine.
I know
I'm
that-
concerned about, we just don't have any place at this time for sheriff officers and nurses and school teachers to live to Tocqueville. We don't. No, none of those people live.
I don't have a guarantee that they're going to afford
So,
what they're going to put in there. I have no guarantee. They haven't given us a price.
Right.
And according to the cost of land and the cost of housing, I don't see it being affordable unless you're looking at 2-income families. That's what I see. So I don't mean to get.
No, that's fine.
That's just my opinion, and that's where I stand.
That's fine.
And if we got Firelight controlled to where we have a nice community and it doesn't have to be, it's spread out and they meet the ordinance with the 2 per acre, then, why are we going to consider 12, 16, or 20 per acre? It's not right.
Agreed.
So that's just my
I'm just
opinion.
nervous of the whole thing anyway, because it's just gone from data centers to this to that. It's flip flopping around. You're surrounding that whole thing with commercial. That's not a very desirable spot to be living. For me, I thought we worked hard on what the town's vision was and what they wanted, and that is part of Tocqueville City. And so is Firelight. And we're trying to incorporate nice places, a nice looking town, not all crammed up. And that's what we've worked for. And I'm going to support this no matter what, because I know what we need to survive, and I know we can't catch it. If we go reverse, we will never catch up. Impact fees get distributed, other things. So you're just getting property tax, guys, and it's just all it is property tax. And then that infrastructure is going to hit you right in the butt. And it could flop. Maybe it don't work for them at all. Or maybe industrial will work great for them. I don't want to take the chance. I promised the folks in this town that I would support this, and I'm supporting this plan. That's my opinion. I can't.
All right.
I feel strongly that way. I need money for the town.
Okay, I just need a motion if we're done discussing it.
Let's see where we're at here.
We're on item G1. A motion or no motion?
I'm going to make a motion. Item T1. Still
G1.
G1. I make a motion that we deny business item G1. Is that all I need to say for that?
Yep.
There's no, well, I can tax ID, but it's.
Yeah, we don't.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Starting your end, Joey.
Aye.
No. Aye.
No.
All right, 3-2, the motion is denied. All right, item G2, discuss possible action on resolution 2025 supporting the Browse Solar Project.
Do we know anything more about the project than we did 2 weeks ago?
This is the Browse Solar Project, not a Power City on the Boulder Ridge.
Yeah, it changed.
This is a different,
Yeah, I understand that.
this is the ability for them to put solar power up there and the ability for the Tocqueville City to generate a little revenue off of that. And that's basically,
Can anyone just kind of give us some more explanation on this? No, I'm not sure if I understand exactly what.
Do you want to
What
start,
it
Ben, or do
is.
you want me to just explain it real quick?
Oh,
He
And I'm happy
drafted
to chime in as well.
Okay. Yeah, whatever's preferred. If you want to tell us what it's about first, Adam, that'd be great.
I guess I'm kind of curious
Sure.
too, to preface this.
So we,
Why does the city need to approve a solar project? Because can't you just put solar on your, just do solar? So anyways, go ahead, sir.
yeah, so we've talked a lot about power in a variety of forms over the last little while here. This is dealing with the, I guess we'll call it a utility scale solar project. So what we're referring to as Browse Solar. This would be a project that sells power wholesale to whoever agrees to buy it, whether that's Rocky Mountain Power, Tokerville, if it were to do a municipal power department at some point, some of the neighboring cities with municipal power departments. This resolution here is intended to be very explicitly non-binding. This is a request from the developer, just a showing of support that Tokerville is interested in this. The arrangement that has been proposed involves Tokerville getting, effectively some royalty payments if this project gets developed, regardless of whether Tokerville buys any of the power or not. This resolution is, like I said, just a truly non-binding expression of support from the council. The developer is looking for something like this just to keep the ball rolling in discussions with other entities, particularly potential off-takers, whether those are other power cities or utilities, and or getting support from UAMPS. I'm happy to answer particular questions, but that's the goal here, is just a showing of support that Tokerville is interested in this and exploring this, and nothing more than that right now.
so real quick question for you. So if Tokerville supports this, does it make it easier for you to approach UAMPS or other communities because the city's involved?
That's the theory, at least. That's what we're hoping for. It certainly doesn't hurt the cause.
Questions?
How does the royalties work, or like how would the city actually benefit from that portion? Because I mean, when we were talking about the Power City, I did understand that portion, but
So in their original agreement with, I can't remember, Darren's, he knows more about it, but when they were talking about solar or wind at the time, every so many kilowatts of power they generate, the city gets a portion. So much money for how much power they generate. Adam, is that correct?
Yeah, the structure that we've been envisioning is similar to royalty payments to SITLA, whether it's power generation or mining or whatever, where the city would get, essentially a payment based on what's produced. I don't know the exact details, and that would all be worked out at some point down the line, but that's what we've been talking about, and that's what we're working toward.
Well, I don't think Tokerville has any problem with them putting solar panels up in the Browse.
Yeah.
And
So
don't
I think
see-
and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I think the intent of this is we approve the cost reimbursement agreement, and this is essentially like a letter of support saying, look, the city's on board with this. From my perspective, or from a legal perspective, I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know that it hurts. It's kind of just one of those things. I probably would recommend removing the language about royalty payments, because I don't know what we're signing up for there. I wouldn't really want that in the resolution until we
I would
have to
rather have the
understand.
royalty payments in the resolution that we will receive royalty payments.
Well, we don't know what we're receiving, so I don't know that we want to commit to that until we know what we're receiving and how it would work.
Why don't we just let him build a solar up there and let him keep his money and not get involved at all because complicated.
If we want to talk about,
I don't want to be a second man to buy power from somebody else and then have to raise it again to sell it to the residents of
we
Tocqueville.
would never buy it unless we decided to go to a power city. They're not saying they want to sell power to Tocqueville. They're saying we want to generate power in Tocqueville, and every so much we generate regardless where it goes, we give the city some money.
Why? Why give me money?
It's like, say, TDS or somebody. There's some other, there's ways for the city to have an agreement with somebody that when they do certain things, that the city gets money. I mean, it's not a novel idea. It's not new. This is, Adam, you've done this a time before on other cities, correct?
I mean, the concept is not brand new. Applying it to a solar project within city limits, I'm not sure this has been done before. Like I said, the basic structure is the same idea that a solar project does with SITLA, where SITLA gets royalty payments based on what's produced.
So the question is, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to have us in the program, and why would you want us to get a royalty? What do you want in return from the city?
Right now, we're just looking for support. And, this has been pitched as, involving some sort of benefit to the city. Obviously, there's a tax-based benefit no matter what else we do, and potential royalty payments too. I can't say with 100% certainty that any of this ever pans out, honestly. There are a lot of, there's a lot of process ahead of the project to get to the point where it's actually built and producing and selling energy. So this is what we've been proposing. This is the path the developer is heading down, and really we're just asking for an expression of support from the city at this point. Whether it's a resolution or whatever else the city's willing to do, quite frankly.
I don't even know if we need a resolution.
Yeah,
I think
I'm still not feeling.
I'm in support of any renewable energy, and I don't want to take money from you if you're going to build renewable energy.
We could issue just a letter of support.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm not really understanding.
Tied to anything.
Yeah, your answer did not do anything to give me an idea of why you want the city to.
We also have the cost reimbursement agreement, right? Whereby we agree to look into this and see what it would look like from the city's perspective. My understanding is that these are one and the same. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Are they the same?
Well, let me
same.
just say, the cost reimbursement was for us to establish and create ours.
No, it was not for us to establish and create. So we had a resolution on the agenda, and that was to establish a municipal power department.
Right.
That got denied. We had the cost reimbursement agreement, which was essentially just an agreement that said, we will look into this. We will look into how to create a municipal power department, not that we will create one.
Okay, right. So I agree with that. Is this resolution connected to that by saying we will look into creating a power?
Unless I'm
municipal
missing
power
something,
company?
I just see this as, they want to approach UAMPS and other providers, and they want to have something from the city that says, look, the city's on board so that they can facilitate discussions easier. I don't know whether this is needed or not. So.
You're saying
That is a better summary than I've given
that?
you in the last 5 minutes. That's about right.
Ben?
I think one of the questions that we're missing here is the current zoning for the entire area, power generation is by right. So there's no changes required on behalf of the city. I think the question that's unanswered right now is, what is the role of the city if this power generation facility is constructed?
That was a really good summary.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it may be nothing at all.
Yeah. No,
Without being a municipal power city, which, as we mentioned, that is really no longer feasible, at least not related to this project we're talking about. The city's role may be literally nothing. Right now, there are some unique aspects about this project, particularly the cost of developing this on SITLA land and the lease rates for the SITLA land that make it difficult. There are some potential advantages based on the geography, how close this project would be to potential off-takers, particularly the other power cities in Washington County. The city's role may be nothing. That's certainly possible. Right now, the developer here is just looking for every showing of support that we can get to go approach UAMPS and potentially the UAMPS members about possibly buying power from this project. And we would certainly be happy with a letter of support rather than a resolution voted on at a council meeting. And, same basic idea. We're just looking for support from the city so we can go and show this project is in fact plausible and moving forward.
And and Kayla, if I go back and look at our last meeting, the recitals here on the cost reimbursement is for taking action to create a Tocqueville Municipal Power Department. So we're not doing that. So this is kind of a moot.
This resolution.
Because we're no longer doing that because the developer just came back at this meeting and said they sold everything to Rocky Mountain Power and now they're looking for this as a new.
They signed a contract.
I'm sorry, they signed a contract with Rocky Mountain Power, so this is a new proposal, and I think that makes that one.
Okay, I'm looking at the cost reimbursement agreement. Is that what you're looking at? Yeah. It just says the city is authorized to take actions to create the municipal power department.
Yeah.
So they can if they want to.
But that's what the recital was for, is to look into that.
This resolution, you looked at it, does it hurt us anywhere? Does it tie us in?
I align with Kayla on her perspective.
Yeah. It doesn't tie us into anything.
It's one of those things, I will say, I just had surface level discussions with UAMPS. They seem pretty willing to give information, but I don't know what Adam's experience has been. I don't know if they ran into roadblocks trying to talk to them and that's why they need this, or they feel like they need this letter of support.
Is the resolution any better than a letter of support? Does it look better for them to have it voted on for the city council, or is it just a letter of support from the city? What looks better for them approaching somebody?
Probably this resolution.
As I said, if we want to repackage this as a letter, that would be great too.
It says it's not binding me to anything.
Correct.
I'm fine with the resolution too.
Yeah.
If it's not binding us to anything.
Right. And
If
we
she
get
wants to strike-
votes.
If she wants to strike that stuff for now, then work on it.
Yeah, the only thing I would remove is the language about royalty. I just am not, we don't know what that is. I just don't want that.
That doesn't cut us out of future royalty though, does it?
No, not necessarily.
What's your concern with that in there?
I don't know what type of arrangement it is. It's putting something in writing that we don't know what it looks like. It's like, what's a royalty? It's kind of like, you kind of raise your eyebrows, like, what is that? What revenue is the city getting and why? Like, it just begs questions, right? So until we know what that is, I'd probably just suggest leaving it out. I'm not saying that it's, bad to have in there, but I just think it's.
So you go down the letter
Creates
to
questions.
item 4, and it's binding you, and I don't want to have a resolution that binds me. The city staff is hereby directed to continue evaluating the feasibility, financial terms, regulatory requirements, and community impacts of proposed route sold. It's just a letter of support, but now you're making me act.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And spend money.
Yeah, that's a good point, Wayne.
A letter of support from Tocqueville that, yes, we'd love to build that.
Well, just delete number 4 out of it.
Yeah, we could strike 4.
And I don't know.
Because that
what we
becomes
need
effective
to
immediately upon
evaluate.
adoption of the city
That's a good
council.
point.
I don't know what we need to evaluate, and I don't know. Yeah, if that's the only thing that's in here that seems to be supportive, what is it that we're supposed to evaluate? The feasibility of what?
Well,
That's
is the
money.
cost reimbursement agreement, is that moot now? Is that still going forward? I don't quite understand.
It can't go forward for this. It's a whole different resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost of reimbursement is really geared toward a municipal power department, which is
It's moot.
a much bigger concept to digest here. This is, from the city perspective, much simpler, at least presumably. There are a lot of unknowns at this point in the process, but much simpler as far as city involvement, I think.
Ready for motion?
Yeah.
Mayor, make a motion, we approve resolution 2025.XX after striking number 2 and number 4.
And also the recital that talks about royalties.
Is there a recital too?
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yes, and
believe
the
it's-
recital about the royalties.
Oh, and the title. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second.
We got everything zipped out of there.
Gary,
Do we need to take it out of the headline, actually the resolution, the very first line? Yeah, just take it out of there too.
Where's the development?
your motion still, your second still stand, Gary?
Yeah, we're still making sure we got hopefully everything out that binds.
Well, you're taking potential royalties out of the first part. Or the,
Yeah.
I've read this a bunch of times, but it seems.
Does this limit us to looking at other alternatives with different companies?
Oh, this is just for their solar panels.
Yes, it's there, they have the right of
Doesn't
line.
limit us to anything.
So. All right. Yeah, I'm okay with myself.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do a roll call, Chuck.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, item G3, discuss the possible action on MPDO modification application and site plan for residential planning area 6 within the Firelight MPDO.
You want me to do this discussion?
If you want,
Or do you guys want to do a summary of it?
you can do a summary. This is just the first site plan that's been submitted. That falls under that resolution that you passed. So they're giving us a 30,000 foot view of planning area 6, showing and what the lot sizes will be. They've given us typical to show that it meets with that, so they'll meet or exceed that. I put on your agenda item sheet that it met all the requirements. Joey pointed out it's missing an ERU table, so I did add that to your SharePoint, and we would recommend that that be added before this is approved. And that'll break down for you the base density for this, and then they've provided amenities for bonus density, so it shows you how much you're using from bonus density. That's what-
Perfect.
Mhm.
Mayor, are you okay if we just like create this as a discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
With
just
these guys
discuss
so
it.
that we can.
Absolutely. Yes, this is your pro.
This is the first time that anything of this, like this has happened, so.
Right.
There's some questions and back and forth,
Absolutely.
but I would like it, the easier we can make this for everybody, including you guys, it's going to be easier for the next one and the next one. So I think if we can clarify some of them issues, it'll be even better. But you guys' table on the, sorry, this computer's taking forever to load the map again.
Yeah, it is.
The open space requirements and the extra square footage and acres and how you did all the calculations, like I think that's like perfect. I wouldn't change anything there. The one thing that it leads to, and especially in the open area, is that in the park area, park and detention area, it's got the pickleball, basketball courts, or whatever that is. So if we're going to use that for any type of amenity bonus densities, we need to remove that from the acreage of open space.
Okay, yeah, and we can do that. And I'm sorry, Adam Allen,
Go ahead, yeah.
American. I just wanted to say we appreciate it, and we anticipated this would be a discussion tonight because this is the very first time, right? This is the first one we're doing, and we would love to have it be as streamlined as possible for future. So, thank you.
We appreciate your guys' help. So I think that's one thing that we need to look at. And if you don't want to use one of them areas like that, then I think just specify not used for bonus density and leave it as open space or whatever clarification. The second thing that I came to was in the bonus densities themselves. It has a table down there. It says 5%, 10%, 10%. It's a little bit confusing, and we might have to do a little bit of cleanup on how we figure that. But right here in the trail section, you guys have 12,007 linear feet that you're going to provide inside of phase of this whole phase, right? Or the whole thing?
Yeah, just in PA
In
6.
PA 6. So we know that you guys are required to have 32,000 linear feet to meet your bonus density, but one of my ideas, and it's kind of a discussion item, is that if these guys are putting, that's 30% of the bonus of their minimum requirement in this. I think they should get some of their bonus densities in the start of it. And I think the open discussion part is that you guys want to like keep it calculated up to a point, right? Like you want to.
Yeah, we want to make sure that all this is being calculated. We're keeping track of what we're doing. You guys know what we're doing. And again, the trails was probably the hardest one for me to figure out how to show it because again, the level of service is 30,000. We don't have 32,000 in this specific phase. But as you can tell by how much we're putting in this 100 acres of the 1,700 acres, there's going to be a lot of trails. So, I was thinking we might be able to give you like a trails master plan because we've went through now with the group, worked with the owners. We've went through and provided basically layouts on what we think we can do everywhere, right? And hey, look, we think in this area, PA6 and PA2 being the two areas where we can get a little more dense and, so now we have an idea where all the trails will go. And so we could, maybe we could have an overall, hey, this is what we've got planned for this area. This is where we're at. And then when we come back on 11 or the next PA, PA5, hey, that said we had to have this many trails in it. And here we are with that many trails in it as well.
And I think the confusion is in the percentage. So in this plan, what I think we need to see is how many ERUs of trails there are.
Okay.
So if we said, okay, hey, they've got this many ERUs pointed, but they still need this many linear feet to accomplish that, then you guys would know where your ERUs are. And then instead of taking the ERUs out of another area, you're assigning them you can assign them wherever you want really, but you have to take less from other areas because one of the things that we did find in the review of that policy that we created is that you do need to have that table. I think it's on page 2 or something, the second page in our packet is it says in there, you need to show where you're going to take and remove out of planning areas and point them to which area. So that would be the next cleanup item, I think. Go ahead. Yeah.
Stephen Wood with Firelight. And within what you're saying then, are you saying that we create a formula, so to speak, that says it's this many linear feet of trail per ERU?
We could. I mean, that would be even easier. And then you can use them however you want.
I like that.
And I mean, it should be simple. Like there's 17. Yes.
675 ERUs. This is how many linear feet of trail we'd have to provide for that ERU in order to.
And then also when we're doing that, it would be the formula for the bonus density too. It would create the bonus density formula. It's super easy.
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
Really easy for us.
And the thing I don't want you guys to have to do is spend all that money and eventually not get that catch up on that bonus,
So then there'd be a rolling calculation from area to area because you're not going to create an exact linear feet per unit. So you'll either create a surplus with each planning area or a deficit.
It could be by acre. Pretty easily by acre.
I guess the question then,
You got to remember, you're only going to get 10% of bonus density from trails. They have 40% designed. So they've got way more trails designed in their master plan than they can only get 10% of the 40 they're showing. So they're going to hit their trails easy.
And I guess the thought that we've had is if there was a table of some kind that was a running table that would show, and here's a question when it comes to this, is if there's a running table that showed the open space, the trails, the parks, and it was, and also like public dedication that we would track. And the question there is that part of the site plan review or would it be part of the plat?
I think it would be just part of this.
Do you think it needs to be part of this?
It'd be part of this, and then the next one you submit, it would be rolling over to the next one.
And right now, each for phases 1 and 2 of Firelight's active adult.
We don't have that yet.
We will, just on the map, on the preliminary plat, it's shown there.
They do have a table started in.
But not the density bonuses.
Yeah, just the ERUs.
Correct.
But I think it'd be easier than, you guys can have 2 banks to pull from anytime you want. And if you improve your bonus densities, then you can say, well, I want to pull out of here instead of transferring out of this other area. Because you guys are going to get to a point where you're going to be like, you're going to have a lot of bonus densities in an area, or, you know, and want to use them. So let's see, the next, is there any questions on that one?
No, that's a great idea.
Joey, going back to what you said at the beginning of this as well, when you said that we can pull ERUs with or from different planning areas and place them in different planning areas. If you look at the development agreement as well as the NPDO, I don't feel like right now that Firelight has a density distribution, like this is what we expect the density distribution to be. And so I almost feel like that would be nice to be established so that you would be able to say, hey, this is what we're planning on right now within Firelight. And then that would be our basis to start utilizing or moving those ERUs.
Can you pull up
I thought we'd
page
seen
2?
one, Joey. Did we see
Yeah.
a density distribution?
It's just the density distribution page. Can you just pull that up so we can look at it for these guys?
And I sent one to Emily today. And
Yeah,
it's
this
right
one, yeah.
here. And
So-
this would establish a baseline for you guys to know what you're planning.
What my intent or what my thoughts on that was is like, and let's look at PA6, as you have 311 or 520 is your base density.
Yes.
And your bonus density is 155.
Yes.
So and you're at 675, right?
Yes.
So you're only a few away from that number. So you don't have to change anything.
Right.
But if you change it,
But the question here is do you, as a city, do you accept that is where our starting point is? Because if you look at the development agreement, NPDO.
It's so
it's that
different.
second column.
wait a minute. I think your base density is incorrect too. Because 138 acres times 2 is what?
264.
Yeah. So you're like 275 should be your base density, not
Is
520.
your understanding then that our base density is the 2 per acre?
Yeah, that's 2 per acre.
Because that's different than what it's.
But they
in the
can
development
Yeah,
agreement
that's
and NPDO.
overall base
That's
density.
overall.
That's overall, but they can, in this particular.
Yeah. So that's overall.
Yes, but we're moving base density.
And you've already showed this portion.
We're
So
saying, hey, we're taking base density from here, putting it here, all that other stuff.
yeah, I think this table is still the base. And then if you like say, look at 5 and say, hey, you know what, we can get a base density or let's say you want to do more bonus densities in there and you're going to change it. Well, you got to just show, well, I'm going to take some out of PA1.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the policy states too, is that if you're going to do a drastic change in that nature, that it moves with it.
I think what Steven's asking is this first column here is what was shown on that map that's in Exhibit C right now. And they've kind of gone through and made a new base density for each area based on what they think they'll develop there. Are you willing to accept this third column, I guess, over as the new base? And then from there, they can change
bet.
that.
Why would this should change anytime you guys need to change
Right.
it. That's what gives you the ability to move it and use
So
it.
we need to, he's saying we need to make sure we're keeping track and keeping it
And we
up to
can
date
track of
all
this,
the time.
and we could
Just-
provide this as we submit.
Every set of plans
Yeah,
comes
you guys
in,
can see this
yeah.
is the total, it all adds up. Okay.
Yeah, it would be easier. And I don't think it needs, I mean, we're going to get down to the end and it might be here a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be super accurate. Do you?
Oh,
Within
As we
20,
go?
30 view, but because the real numbers,
Side.
the real numbers are going to come on when you submitted the planning area 6. So like if you're within 5% on this sheet, then is anybody going to question 5% of density? No, I don't think
You're
so.
looking at me. Yeah, as far as, I mean, this is helpful. I don't think that it should be like
Exact.
exact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
so
that there's
either.
going to be some flexibility,
Yeah.
but this is really helpful to see.
So Joey, there's bonus density, but also when they have high density in certain projects, don't they have open space requirements when the setbacks and so on like that? So how is that reflected in the map versus this density chart?
So they just need to see their base density and they have their allowances right here for that planning area. So they updated this in conjunction with it and met the requirement. But when you go to that page 3 on that map right there that's on the screen now, that very top table right there, that gives you, if you look at on the left, it tells you the size of the lots, the size of the everything, and then they did the formula and what their density and percentage that they needed to meet, and then they gave a total of acres that they needed to give us.
And then some.
And then, yeah, so, yeah, and they have extra open space. They've already met that requirement of, so there's two requirements you can think of on open space. You have a 10% minimum level of service that's required. If they want to add 5% more open space, they get a 5% bonus density. But that's what we need on the open space bonus density down here where it says 5%. We need to equivalent that into the ERUs of additional open space.
Right.
Then you guys know, everybody knows, and it's just easy that way. The ones that are going to be a little bit harder is actually, there's no formula for like a public dedication and then the active recreation. They're kind of like city council things. I think we should try to make some kind of a formula, or like, hey, the idea behind that was that, hey, there's 19 pickleball courts on this side of the road. Let's do something else over here, you know?
Right.
So that's why we wanted to have some say in it, but there's got to be a way that we can figure some type of formula, like here's your amenities. And I thought we did at one time, but this is how many bonus densities you're going to get, or how many ERUs for that, or I don't know, to make it more fair. But this
Like pre-approved standards essentially
like
for
maybe amend that.
that idea. Yeah, that could work.
And that
really
might be
well.
a good idea for planning commission to look into something that might be able to do that. I don't know. Let's see, what else was that? Does everything make sense so far?
Yeah, great. Yep.
Go back to that page. Does anybody else have anything while I'm trying to catch my next thing?
I do want to clarify that even though you provided the distribution map, you're still going to break it down and put it on the site map for bonus density for each amenity. Okay.
Gary, you have something you'll think here?
I'm thinking about whether we're having a discussion or if it's going to lead into us, someone making a motion on this, or do we need
I
to
think it
table?
will, but that's why I asked the mayor if we could like.
Yeah, I want to
have an open
discuss,
discussion
yeah.
so that everybody here was in the same page, and also these guys that are active. We don't want to send them back and have them draw it and then come back and say, well, that's not what we thought. And come back again and draw it again, and so I'd rather try to get all that out of the.
So you're looking at tabling, recommending a table?
I think so.
For them to go
just so
ahead and
that we
make the
can clarify
revisions?
these other items. Yeah.
And we're okay with that.
You're okay with
We're
that?
okay with that. We understand there's going to be, again, we've taken a stab at it. It's here, let's talk about it, and we'll come back and we feel like we've got it right.
I think it's really close. The other thing that we should bring up while everybody's talking about that is the open space. So if you take the amenity out and want to use it as a bonus, a trail or a amenity bonus density,
Right.
then you'll remove that acreage out of your open space. But these guys also need to have a running total. So they have more open space in here that should be able to be pushed for somewhere else, right?
We were thinking about that as it's been discussed, and we talked about that today as well. And we're thinking that we probably ought to provide an overall map with each one of these that we submit as well. Like that shows the whole thing.
The whole
Hey, this
thing,
is
where the
opens-
bonus density is.
The whole thing, say, hey, look, here's the ones we've already got planned in PA6. Now we're PA4 or whatever it is. Here's what we have there. Here's what was, so we can keep an overall running total of everything. Make sure we're hitting everywhere.
Yeah, and I think the real running total you guys need is you take a planning area, you take your 10% minimum out.
Yep.
You take your 5% bonus out, and that, whatever you're left with is your total, right?
Yeah.
So.
And we'll,
My
Yes.
biggest
I honestly
concern,
think we're going to have more open space.
I think you're going to have.
We're going to
way
have tons
more.
of open space out there.
Are you going to distinguish on this map then what open space you're not using in this planning area? Maybe we should have a different color for that. So when we come back to check it later, we know you're not double dipping.
And move this out and move that out.
Well, the reality is the open space.
I'm just concerned
Could be in a
about
different area.
Yeah.
running out of ERUs before you even touch PA7. Planning
To
area
be
seven.
honest with you, and we're having a hard time getting them all to work in the areas that we can based on the slopes that we've got. So personally, and I know I'm newer to Firelight, I don't see how and I can't guarantee it, but I don't see how we could do that with what we've got, what we can build where based on the
Are
hillside
you looking
ordinances.
at just leaving that empty?
The reality is with their PDO is that.
PA7,
Yeah.
you're talking that one right there. We're thinking that will be a Kayenta style development.
Oh,
There's
Kayenta.
Kayenta. like out there, Kanta, over, if you've been out there by Ivans, yeah. So it's that similar. So we've done a layout and done some things on how we feel we can get that to work in there because it's tough back there.
Yeah, bigger lots, less,
So
no
I
disturbance,
think-
leave the natural, Kanta.
Yeah, PA7, we have like 100, I think there's 153 total, but I don't. yeah.
This is good, but initially when that density came up, I'm worried about you guys running out of ERUs. So
Yeah.
if we're not doing that, then I'm okay.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not doing that. Now that we've done this comprehensive, every single thing, we've got, initial layouts, they'll all change, but we've done initial layouts on what can be done where. And that's why we've come up with all these numbers.
I think it's going to be hard for them to get their ERUs. They're going to get their bonus densities way before their ERUs. Because you're just coming out here to be able to lay out the houses. Well, if that's the case, and they have a 10-acre open space or something that's going to be on a hillside or unusable land or something, So-
Right. And yeah, so what we've been doing when we run into that is we're just planning bigger areas that are pieces of the hill or whatever it is. We're not going into those as much or doing whatever it is, make sure that we hit what we hit.
Yeah, I just don't want to have someone come back in and say, hey, we need to fill this with something, we're out of space, and now another developer.
We're out of
wants to
space,
come
or
in.
we have extra space on the houses.
Yeah, so I feel comfortable with this chart, so.
You got to remember too, is the ERUs, the bonus density ERUs, it's all like married to that property. It's
Regardless.
recorded and.
Yeah, if somebody bought it and they want to do something, say, no, they're used up.
Yeah.
Period.
That's what I mean.
I mean, they could come,
I hate to
they
do
could
that.
come and ask for it, but it would
Right.
have to be a
There'll be
major
a new
amendment.
council here in 10 years, 10, 20 years from now, something will change.
Did I miss anything? I think
Come
that was all I
January.
had. That's really, I think you guys did a really good job.
Come
on the
January,
first-
we'll have a new-
I
we'll
think
have a new
you
city council.
executed their vision like almost perfectly on the first try, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really good, I think. I do think we are going to have some hard time trying to figure some of the ERUs and the bonus density though. So we'll just have to work together. and
Yeah, we're gonna have to work through
be
that.
creative on that.
Make sure that we're providing you guys updates every time we're doing something.
Yeah. That's all I got. If we're,
I think you covered everything pretty well.
Are we tabling?
Yeah.
Table.
So
it,
we,
come back with the
you guys
changes.
have direction on what we need. So
Any
we
other
can get
questions
it
from you
done,
guys?
2 weeks, we can
Yeah.
back on the agenda.
they can put a sign and landscaping there and call it open space.
Cause in that corner.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to table business item G3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Good job.
All right, item G4, discuss the possible action adopting the fiscal year 2025, 2026 final budget.
Is this Ben?
This is Ben.
So we've discussed the budget kind of over the last 6 months. This is the final action required. As a reminder, we do have some safety margin if final budget. Just thought we'd double up final budget. I don't need to hit on these. These are our priorities from strategic planning. So I just wanted to mention that this budget attempts to capture the council's priority for the upcoming year. If in any way, I'd recommend, if it doesn't do that, then let's figure out a way to make it do it better. But I think that we captured these objectives pretty well. And staff certainly has a direction on what the priorities are for the next year. I did want to hit on a number of budget categories that have come up. That just in discussion, conversation with council members and the public, and we had a public comment. There's kind of just some consistent themes, some consistent topics on questions of the budget. So I wanted to mention one thing before we get too far into it. You'll see here that we have currently 730 connections. So this is, I should have said homes, I guess, with about 6,000 entitlements. And so a lot of the work of staff and a lot of the resources that the city's allocating are for what's coming. A lot of the conversations we had tonight, right? A lot of the energy that council is spending is on the future. When we compare ourselves to other cities in the state of Utah, some cities of the fifth class are essentially fully built out. And that's certainly, Tokerville's far from that. And so the city has to invest money in, like staff levels for one thing. We have staffing levels based on the need because of future growth coming. So it's just important to keep that scale in mind. Parkway project, it's a very round number, $3 million that's in Fund 41. I wanted to touch on that. $3 million is simply a placeholder because it's difficult to ascertain right now what will be billed effective through June 30th and where it starts July 1st. That's going to be modified in a budget amendment as the project wraps up. Legal fees, I think it's important to keep that scale in mind where our legal fees are essentially just protecting and defending the city. As you look at that scale and the work that the city's taking on, that's kind of the key there is the scale. So another comment was on the prosecutor. So as you guys know, we collect 50% of the citations of fines that are issued. So we collect 50% of that. We still actually don't even have enough data because there's such a lag in the court process, in prosecutions, in actual payments made to the court. We collect 50%. We don't know what that number is going to look like on an annual basis. We budgeted about $5,000 just to be conservative and in revenue, and our prosecutor, we budgeted about $30,000. And so that's not a break even, but again, we don't really have enough information to know where that ends up.
Is that a prosecutor expense or is that a projected revenue from the prosecutor?
That's the expense. That's what we're paying him as a contractor.
Can the prosecutor give us
So we lose
a
25,000.
number that he thinks is coming in the door since we have a lag?
Yeah, again, it's kind of an interesting financial model. I don't think we've ever tied the caseload to dollar amount. We could do that if we were interested in diving in. Yeah.
Well, I noticed one of the citizens asked us why we're doing this.
Right.
Because if we're losing money, and I don't think we have the data that we need to make a decision at this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Does that read we lost $25,000 or we're going to lose $25,000?
It's what we're budgeting. It's what we're budgeting, again, with
So we lose
inadequate
$25,000.
information. Yeah.
We lose, that's a loss.
And remember, we're doing conservative budgeting. So we're overestimating our expenditures, we're underestimating our revenue.
But this is the way we need to enforce our codes within the city.
Exactly.
So if we didn't do this, then we would not have an avenue to enforce our codes.
Right.
It's not really a loss.
We're going to spend.
It's not,
money
it's,
working with
we
Phil
voted
Berry.
to.
It's not a loss.
To hire the prosecutor, but whatever we can recuperate in the
Absolutely.
meantime is what we're gonna put towards.
Absolutely.
It's not really a loss.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
We're spending it.
Service being
It's a
provided to the
service, yeah.
community.
There you go.
We're going to use it, let's use it.
Yeah. Events. So the one thing I wanted to mention here, so some people advocate for more, some people advocate for less. This again just reflects the priority of how we interpreted the council's priority. We've discussed these events kind of twice at length, both in an October 2024 council meeting and then in strategic planning. So the numbers roughly, it's I think 75,000 off the top of my head annually for events. It represents something like 2 or 3% of the general fund budget, and it's a great service that's provided to the community.
We have lots of volunteers that we could solicit and have them come help out with that.
Yeah. Fleet. The city has 5 trucks and 2 cars with under a 3-year lease that was renewed in the fall due to a negative equity position. This is just the situation that the city's in. It's not something that, if we were modeling it today, we might choose to structure that a little differently. But that's where the city's at right now.
Can't do nothing about it,
Right.
right? 2 more years of this stuff.
Yeah. 2.5. Yeah. Staff wages is the next item. So I would just call to attention that cities are really a labor intensive service industry. It's something to keep in mind, right? Like the service that cities providing are just labor intensive. It's a service industry. We do deliver products in the form of water, but delivering that water requires staff. I did a little digging. I took a few minutes this morning and looked at wages as a percent of general fund budget for cities similar in size in Utah. found this to be kind of interesting. So if you take all of the city's wages in the general fund only and divide it by the total general fund expenditures, you'll see that Tokerville lands right at 23% of our general fund budget, which actually falls on the lower end of the cities that I randomly selected, you know, up in similar size communities. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot to go into this. There's a lot to digest. You know, you look at the one on the high end, they have a police department that is costing, you know, $750,000. So you have to understand there's a lot of context in order to really understand this, but we do fall within normal margins when you look at it on a percentage of general fund basis. That's it. I believe that's my last comment. So happy to answer any questions about the final budget.
Can you hit the changes that are on our agenda item sheet?
I can, yeah. Most of them were just kind of administrative.
Let me briefly talk about each of them.
Pull up that document. Yep.
On the packet update?
Yeah, on the agenda item sheet for a motion.
Okay, gotcha.
So we had
on the bottom there.
It's on the right.
This is on the agenda item sheet. And I can just speak to it too if that's how we.
I can read it to you if you want. There you go. Emily's got it.
Yeah, they're at the bottom. So basically, primarily, there weren't any significant structural changes to the budget. These were just items that so what we did, you'll see that we went from a spreadsheet into Polaris because what we wanted to do was present to City Council the final budget as it goes in Polaris. And there's just a little bit of cleanup that came up along the way. And so these handful of bullet points just cover all of those. So this was like literally every change that's been made to the budget in the last 2 months.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I'll hit them.
Yeah, please.
So we have this outdoor recreation planning assistance and trails planning program. This is a program that the state brought to us. This is typically this is used to fund a master trails plan. But what we're doing instead is doing more of there's some engineering. It's not a master trails plan. What they're doing is we told them where we're at. We know where we want trails, and it's like, how do we actually get these built? So it's a plan to get the trails built. I think we've talked about this in strategic planning. 100% grant funded, but we still have to budget for the revenue and the expense. Okay. So that's why that's on there. There's a number of phone allocations, cell phones that were just missed, a couple $100 each between the cemetery department. And again, this is an allocated cost. So cemetery, building inspector, and streets. Our commercial general liability policy that increased from 30,000 to 40,000 in the last few months. The representative of our insurance, the Utah Local Governments Trust came out, and our evaluations hadn't been updated. Our built structures hadn't been updated in value for quite some time, and so that increased our CGL policy. City manager memberships, this is just the local ULCT, the City Managers Association was just
gym.
It's not the gym. No.
Maverick.
We found some engineering costs that had been duplicated, so that was actually a reduction of $15,000. It was represented in 2 department budgets. Admin IT. This was actually kind of an interesting one, and this is probably one of the bigger components of changes. So our security camera system was purchased like 3 years ago, and in that purchase was the licensing. You renew every 3 years, which is kind of difficult. It's off cycle for a municipality, but we found that the licensing is up about a year from now, but it'll hit before the next fiscal cycle. So 3-year renewal of licensing is $8,000, and even though that is above our purchasing threshold of $5,000, so we've actually already obtained 3 quotes of who to provide that from. And right now we're looking at using our IT provider that currently provides our IT services so that it's all under one roof. Balance of transportation master plan. So this is just a rollover from the current budget item, and this is fully grant paid. So again, we have to budget for the revenue and the expense. the city's portion has already been paid. The city pays the portion before any other expenses or before the reimbursement comes in. And so this is a revenue and an expense. And the reason this isn't done yet is because they're waiting for traffic counts on the parkway before we actually continue working on that transportation plan. Stormwater utility fee. This was just, I was looking at the kind of, on that enterprise fund, the net income was negative, and I found that the stormwater utility fee was just budgeted in error at $3,000. It should have been $60,000. So that's just an oversight. And then the other one was non-monetary, but we had been accounting for water impact fees in operating income, which kind of makes it difficult to read the financial statement. So that was moved under non-operating income. And that's the summary of all the changes from.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's a summary of changes from admin budget to the final budget.
So Ben, I'm grateful for the turnout and the comments that were made by the public and the fact that you addressed these public comments here with us as well. So that helps encourage the public to realize that they have an impact on what the city's doing.
Yeah.
And it's like an open book thing, like come and ask your question, we'll get the answer.
Yep.
You know, especially on the
Transparency.
monetary portion.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I am ready for a motion. Yep.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve resolution 2025.XX adopting fiscal year 2025-2026 final budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? We'll do a roll call vote. Joey?
Aye.
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 Aye, motion carries. All right, item G5, discusses possible action on ordinance 2025 and ordinance adopting the Tuckahoe City compensation schedule for fiscal year 2025-2026.
So this is a new statutory requirement that cities adopt their compensation schedule by ordinance for municipal officers. Is essentially anybody that is somebody or is a city appointed position, which entails like all but the public works crew. But because of that, because it encompassed everyone, we just included everyone in it so that we didn't have two different, an internal compensation schedule and then a municipal officer's compensation schedule. So here we have two mechanisms within our policies and procedures for advancement and compensation. The first is a cost of living adjustment. This is just to maintain the compensation schedule with inflation. I always recommend using the Social Security Index just because they work a lot harder at establishing inflation than I can. So that is for the last calendar year was 2.5%. If approved, this would be effective July 1st for all employees. And this actually slides the entire scale up 2.5%. So if somebody's at midpoint within the schedule, then they stay at midpoint. The other component that our policies and procedures allow for is a merit increase. This is performance-based. It's proposed at a 4% ceiling, and it increases an employee within the range. So this is how an employee moves, say an entry-level employee starts at 0% or, at the beginning of a compensation schedule. This is how they advance within that compensation schedule. And this is one that is effective on January 1st. And for all employees. And the reason for that is that it enables flexibility for budget constraints. So basically, if revenues are under what we're projecting, that's one way that we can easily scale back the budget and say, hey, we don't have room for growth in wages this year. But that's, again, proposed at 4%.
A high wage earner there can get another $10,000 a year off the 2.5% in the merit.
We don't have any employees that would earn additional $10,000 a year, myself included.
Well, if you get somebody that you're paying on the high range of 146.53.
Well, the percentage is on the pay scale.
6.5%.
But it's only, so if they're on the high side, it doesn't, that's right. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, right.
How do I explain that?
I don't know. Because you get a cost of living of 2.5 every year.
Correct, yeah.
So, and then you could get a merit ceiling, whatever the merit ceiling is, but that's 6.5%. That's on the higher earner, that's $9,546 a year you could earn. Am I not correct?
Yeah, I mean, potentially the position you're speaking of as a city manager, that if they were at 100% of the pay scale, then yeah, you're exactly right. But again, that position is at the
Well, if they're
discretion of the
lower
council.
percent, it's just, I don't know, I have a hard time with wages because it just does, I mean.
I think it's the fiduciary.
I'd love to get a $4,000 or $6,000 raise every year. In 10 years, I get another $60,000. I could be making close to something like this.
Just work harder. Get a raise. Just work a little harder, Wayne.
I work hard.
Just work a little harder. Work a little harder.
So this increases the city council?
I think we need to be very
It does
careful.
not.
with
No,
everything.
that's done by separate ordinance.
You know, there's two
so what is-
sides
is
to
this
this.
just an
There's
allowance?
basically the cost of
Why
living.
does it say 300 for
Which is a
city council?
given.
There's no transparency.
Because that's
Even look at this, because I don't know where, I
It's
know.
all transparent. What do you mean there's no transparency? It's 100% transparency.
No, I don't know how much they're making. I don't know how many he's making, how many I can find out. In fact, I already know, but so I know what they have.
I don't think 4% for merit is a lot.
No.
Because
It's got to have a cap.
I would
What's the
laugh
ceiling?
at
It
my
is
boss.
4%.
Per year,
4% is the cap
per year,
Yeah.
if they do a
Yeah.
good job.
per year.
If they do a
Yeah.
good job.
That doesn't mean.
Guys, you're out.
Doesn't mean they're going to get it.
I know, but if they do get it, you're outpriced.
But there's a
yourself.
cap.
Your employees in 10 years are going to be so,
No, they can only go, there's a cap on the
There's a
position,
cap.
right?
Yeah, there is. That is so there's the
The high
scale.
end
The
is the
first,
max.
there's a low end and a high end, and the high end is the max. So the idea
once you
is,
hit the high end, you still get your 250 of your 4%. possibly.
Sure.
So that's-
The max would change based upon cost of living, yes.
Yeah.
But then you're at the max.
That max
and you're
on the
not
high
gonna
end
get
is
anything you're
$10,000 a year, you could earn more. So in 10 years, instead of 146,000, you're making 246,000 per year.
with inflation over time, that is true because the cost of living increases, right?
Yeah, but we don't, the cost of living doesn't increase that.
No, that is the purpose of the Social Security Index
On
is
the-
to match
the 2.5%.
Social Security benefit with inflation. That's exactly the purpose of Social Security
I'm looking
Index.
for the wrong people.
If you keep, Wayne, if you keep pushing this, if you need your sidewalk repaired, you might as well give it up. They're not coming to fix your sidewalk.
I didn't.
I have a negative merit, I think. I'm not really sure. I just don't want to be so far ahead of other cities.
We're behind.
Most of the other cities are the same. I mean, they're still.
Cities, the water district, the sewer district, the fire department, they
Why
all
don't we change
have.
that to 3.99%?
Yeah. The thing about it is private industry is a lot different than,
Private industry used to make more than municipal industries. But now municipal, with all the little gifts and grants and everything, they make more.
It is what it
And they
is.
do less. Just speaking the truth.
I wouldn't say they
Except
do
for-
less.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
You can't say they
I
do
wouldn't say our officers and
No.
workers do less.
Not
I think they
officers,
do.
but mostly workers, yes.
Well, here's the real reality is
They
the
all
merit,
work hard.
the merit base is going to be decided for the people that are making the most by council.
I don't think so. That's,
Is that correct?
that's based, no, we don't have no say in that.
Yeah.
No, that's
We did.
true. Yeah.
We have 100%
Yep.
saying
We
that.
sure didn't have a say a while ago.
What do you mean?
So is this,
All right, have we
So when
beaten
we-
this horse?
What's that?
Yeah, have we beaten this horse?
City.
I
Assistant city
didn't, I didn't hear.
Only the upper, not the lower tier crew, public crews.
Right.
I didn't hear one thing, and I may have missed it.
I got it.
The council and the mayor,
No.
we're not in this, right? We're going to keep our.
That's correct. That's why it's just that one note, and that is determined separately by council, and that's statutory.
Yeah, I was going to
Yep.
ask you how you were going to quantify our merit, so.
So can I ask the mayor to ask for a motion?
Yes, I'm looking for a motion.
I move that we go ahead and approve business item G5 related to ordinance 2025XX, adopting the compensation schedule for the fiscal year for Tokerville, fiscal year 2025-26.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further
I'm
discussion?
just going to add one comment. If we could revise the motion just to reference this exhibit, that was my only change. Sorry, it took me so long to voice that.
What exhibit?
So I just want the ordinance to say something. So there's this exhibit A. I just want it to be referenced in the ordinance that they tie together.
I see you have an exhibit. I don't have it in front of me. Is it-
I'm looking at the compensation schedule that it looks
Okay,
like
I
that put
didn't pull
together.
that up.
So it just something to the effect of approve and refer with the condition that it references Exhibit A or something like that.
Okay, so how would you like me to change this motion?
I would revise it to say something like, make a motion to approve this ordinance on the condition, or
Reflecting Exhibit A.
reflecting that it references Exhibit A, or just something to tie the two together
Okay, so I would
so that
go
they
ahead
come
and move
together.
that we approve business item G5 related to adopting a Tocqueville compensation schedule, which includes Exhibit A that's submitted for the ranges for each position.
I'll obtain my second.
Have a motion and a second, any more discussion?
One more.
Yep.
Are we budgeted for this?
Yeah, this is all budgeted for. Yeah.
Roll call vote starting there in Joey.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, item G6, discuss the possible action ordinance 2025 excess and ordinance amending Title 4 of Tocqueville City Code by creating Chapter 6, establishing burning regulations.
Burning.
So do we get, how many regulations do we get to burn?
So this was drafted on request of the prosecutor. We've had a number of prosecutions, and in order to pursue these, we've had to reference county code, which is not ideal. And so instead, we're proposing to adopt Washington County Code by reference. So it's just within our code, and it references.
Mayor.
Yes.
Motion.
I am.
Two quick changes.
great.
Just clean up. This is a great ordinance, but just a couple cleanups. So I just want some language in the first paragraph to make clear, because when you actually go to Washington County Code, it talks about how it applies to unincorporated Washington County. So I don't want somebody to get confused. I want to say something like, we hereby incorporate by reference sections 1 through 4, which shall apply to all land located within Tocqueville or something like that. Okay, and then the second change I had was striking third paragraph of 462, the first sentence, because that's covered in the sentence that says only natural vegetation such as weeds and trimmings may be burned, because that's covered in the code that's cited. And then add in front of the next sentence, no materials may be burned without a permit, including without limitation, and then just trash, building materials, and field burns.
That's a mouthful.
I know, sorry.
I would make a motion to approve.
You could do a motion to approve with my red lines,
Yeah, that's what I was going to
and
do.
I could just hand my red lines to Emily.
As you stated is what I was going to say. Approve ordinance 2025.XX and ordinance amending Title 4 of Tocqueville City by creating Chapter 6 establishing burn regulations with the modifications stated by the city attorney, and red lines approved.
Stay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item G7, discuss the possible action resolution 2025, a resolution amending and restating subsection 4.4.2.5 M meter boxes and the road cross section standards and Tocqueville city standards and specifications, clarified meter box location requirements, and to update the roadway dimensions table and standard cross section drawings. Darren, I'm guessing this is you.
This is me. So in essence, if you read the agenda item sheet in the background, it kind of gave you the background of how we are right now in our 2024 revision of the city standards and specification, the updates there. The major updates that we were doing there was to add streetlights that complied with our outdoor lighting ordinance. And so when we did that, inadvertently, somehow the standard specs, the standard cross sections for roadways were left off. And then, so there's a number of drawings right there from drawing number 140 to 140E. The first one is the table that talks about, thank you, is basically right there. There's a red line in your packets as well that basically you can see what I did there to change. But when I realized that the cross sections, A, B, C, D, and E were left out. I went and we started reviewing this and realizing that none of the numbers, the dimensions of that did not add up to what our current, what we're even trying to do. So it didn't, if so a 50-foot wide road, your asphalt, it was just, everything was just off. There was also a 42-foot wide road cross section in there that just did not work. So I added that to the actual, a column in the table as well, to make sure that all of our 2 local road standard cross sections that were represented in the 2020 version were also represented in the table. And then also you can see on that same red line there, the additional, I added a couple of notes to the bottom that talks about the cross sections, that if anything was to ever be proposed, it would have to be approved by the city engineer. And as I talked there, the most important thing is as we look at this as an engineering standard, is we definitely want to see in a collector road, we want a minimum standard of asphalt width. We want, and in our local roads, we want a certain standard of width so that we can have 2 to 4 lanes. It depends on, and then in our collector roads, we definitely want to be able to have the ability to put active transportation on one side and also possibly have a car be able to park on the side. On our smallest cross section, which was a nice thing there, is that in the actual cross sections, it gives you further clarity and than just the table. The table gives you half widths, it gives you a few things like that, and then you have to add up. And I think that's why this was incorrect, was because a while back, it's probably been in 2020 or maybe 2019, the city council decided they would like to have 6-foot sidewalk everywhere. When they did that, they forgot to update the other numbers, and it didn't work. And it was pointed out to me, well, as I was reviewing this, I was going, this just does not work. We're so off and so wrong. We need to fix this and get our cross sections back in as per what we had before. And so really it's kind of just a housekeeping item, but if there's any questions you had there. Oh, one thing that JD did want to change in the actual text and it's in the reference or in the resolution as well as the agenda item sheet. He has been having complaint, or it just states in there that his meter boxes, water meter boxes or barrels are located behind the sidewalk. He just wanted to clarify that and say they should be located behind the sidewalk in the public utility easement, because he's got a lot of places where the meters are farther out, closer to the house. They're outside that public utility easement. Technically, if it's located outside there, he doesn't really necessarily have the easement to get in there and fix or maintain those meter boxes. So as we install that in the future, basically, when somebody comes in, a developer or a contractor comes in there and they put the water barrel back farther than it should have been, he can say, move that as per our standard inspect. It says in our standard inspect that it's right behind, it's in the PUE. So that's all it does, is in what you're seeing there in his adage to that was in the public utility easement. That was his words to additional change there.
Perfect.
So, and I
So we need to include the red lines in the motion?
No, do the resolution and.
The red lines would for us.
Yeah, the red lines were
identify
because
the
basically I wanted you
errors.
guys to see what I was changing
Yeah.
in the existing standard drawing. And then also with what I'm doing there is I'd like to go through eventually as time permits and update our standards inspect drawings so that they're all uniform and have our city logo there, the formatting of the text. So that when you go to one doesn't have great big text, the other one has a little tiny text you can't hardly read. Just consistency and more professional looking.
If you do that by the end of the week, just get on it.
Yeah, it took me for Hurricane City, I did the same thing. If you go look at theirs, there's basically have all we did that through, and it took me about 2 years. Yeah,
That's a
to do
spare
it.
time thing. So it could take 5 years.
Yeah, I did those on the weekends.
So this is
And on
this is
vacation.
generally housekeeping, and so I would move that we go ahead and approve item G7 related to the road cross sections and the meter boxes.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, discuss the possible action on applicable water rate for the contractor water line project.
I think everybody's familiar with this, just with the contractor for the Washington County Conservancy District and the Cottonwood ended up using city water because for a few reasons it was closer for one thing, so they ended up using it for the entire project. They could have received water from the district that was free. When we handed over the meter, the typical procedure wasn't followed where we disclosed the rates. Our rates on hydrant water are $12, pretty quickly escalates to $12 per 1,000 gallons. The contractor has requested, after receiving the bill, which is when it usually happens, that the city apply instead what do we call it? Municipal contract rate. So as if we contracted with them for this work, as if it was a city project, which is $2.50 per 1,000 gallons. And this would be, our fee schedule requires this to be an action of the city council.
Well,
If
just
granted.
have the Water Conservatory District give us the water back.
Just
In the
trade
number of
gallons of
gallons.
water for gallons of water and give them a free, don't want to make them pay it, just get the water back.
Put the water back in your bank.
To the contractor.
If we had a way to get it in a 2 million gallon tank.
And keep it there.
And keep it there.
I mean, we're buying water from them.
You are buying water for the Anderson Junction area.
Yeah.
So I would just take it out and trade with that and return it back to the Anderson Junction.
So when the contractor picked up the hydrant meter, he didn't know that was the cost?
The city.
Yeah, we typically have a form where the cost is disclosed. That was not followed in this instance.
For whatever reason, the contractor didn't get that.
Oh, geez, as a contractor, you don't know how much you're paying for water. What is, as part of the project, the contractor utilized their resources to assist the city in locating the existing water line?
Yeah, so they had a vac truck that they brought down because our guys weren't able to locate the line that was running adjacent to it in the Blue Stakes process.
So there's a lot, we have a water line that doesn't have a locator wire in it that was going up Pond Hill. So they located that for us with their vacuum truck for probably, I'm not exactly sure how far. I'd have to talk to JD, but it was quite a significant
Well, they want
distance.
to because you have to, because that's part of your responsibility is to protect utilities in place.
Yeah, there, in some places that water line was not very deep. It was like 12 inches deep.
Can't believe they weren't aware.
And so they actually brought in dirt on top and set on top of our line, that existing water line that we have, so that we have some cover over it.
How much did it cost us to produce that water?
And what's the difference between what they're asking and what the bill is? We have that.
You know, it's a good question. We actually, so this is within our water, right? So this is spring water. I have not done the work to calculate what the cost is to pump and produce the water. If this was wholesale water from the district, we would have been buying it at $1.92, but those are the fixed costs, not the variable cost. It doesn't pay for the cost of infrastructure and delivering water and staff and everything else. I don't have that number, what our water actually costs us to get it to a hydrant.
So Joey's recommendation is just to get the shares that he used. Are we gonna, if that happens, will we be using those shares?
Well, it's not shares, it's just gallons.
Gallons.
It's gallons. What they
Just
just
ask the water
50,000 gallons or
conservation
something.
district to-
What is it?
I'd
know,
take
lock
the
that number down.
3,300 and go with it.
So are we gonna
They
need
need
it?
to pay for the
If we don't
water.
need it,
Well,
we'll
it's
get the
just-
money.
Yeah.
I'm sure
At
it
a
costs us a lot to
discounted
pump
rate.
that
So
million
wait a minute.
ton or whatever it was, but
How much do we sell a gallon of water for?
a gallon.
Like, what is it?
$4 per, I mean, there's included in the base
We
rate.
just have the conservatory give us back the water. We're making more money than 3,000.
Well, how do you know what water you get back? You can't.
We don't, I mean, another thing to remember is we don't fully use our water, right? So
Right.
we have unused water.
Yeah, we
If we're
have.
not fully using it, then
Right. We're not. We sell all of our excess water to the district
Yeah.
at a cut rate.
Have a
Well.
contractor pay us.
I negotiated that, so
If it's $4.
it was the most I could
Whatever we
get.
say.
Well, are we,
Well,
do we give them the wholesale, our municipal rate, or do we charge them contractor rate? That's the question here. They're gonna pay some. Are they gonna pay the municipal rate, or are they gonna pay the full one contractor?
Yeah.
They used 1 million gallons, right?
You did, yeah.
You think $3,000 would cover the pumping bill for that electricity bill?
Yeah.
Just take the $3,000 and just make it go away.
Make the motion.
They should, I'll make that motion. Because I mean, yeah, that's kind of ambiguous. They should have known.
Yeah.
I don't want the water district telling me what to do, so.
well,
$3,000 will cover it or more or whatever, half or whatever you guys want.
with him helping to find that,
That's a
That
contractor
water line.
responsibility when you.
And bringing dirt in on
You are
top.
responsible to pothole. And I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't a subsurface investigation clause in there, which there usually is by hour. So I don't put any weight in that because that's just a leverage thing right there. Because
So-
when I go on a job, I have to find the line.
okay.
That's my responsibility to find that line and not break it. If the city doesn't know where it's at, then I have to find that line.
I do believe that the water district, I need to verify this with JD, but in the construction, the weekly construction meetings, they discussed bringing dirt in and putting, because it was so shallow, is bringing dirt and setting it on top of our line so it didn't break. It also, the Cottom to Virgin line was a little shallow as well. So it served them as well as us, but there was material brought in, but I don't know. I think the district just paid for the additional dirt.
I
Can we
think
just charge him $3 then?
like
It's cheaper than retail and
Well, it's
covers wholesale plus our expenses.
Charging $3 per gallon, or what's the?
Per thousand.
That's right. 3 per thousand.
Yeah.
What's our municipal rate? Is it?
Municipal contractor rate is $250 per thousand.
Why would we do anything different than the contractor rate?
Municipal contractor, not
Oh,
contractor.
sorry. never mind.
Yeah, that's if we were doing a project, that's what we would charge them. Or charge ourselves almost because really,
They just pass it through.
they just pass it through back to the city. So we're
Well,
doing
we come out a little bit, so whatever makes us come out.
I'm confident that the $2.50 covers the cost of providing
That's right.
water.
How do you feel comfortable with $3 covering the cost?
Oh, yeah.
He does it 250, that's more, so I hope so.
What would that number be? Because it's got to be put in here. $3?
Yeah.
1,000.
Somebody make a.
That's a substantial discount compared to what we billed them for.
Yeah. I don't have a.
You can just put that number as $3 per
Yeah.
thousand, if you want to make that your motion.
Go
Is
ahead.
that your motion?
Yeah, make that motion. I'm more out with it already.
What's your motion?
Oh, I thought you made it.
Oh, Gary's over here trying to make one.
Oh, no, did you make it? Go
No,
ahead.
I got as far, but if you want 3, I'll go with $3 rather than you're asking for $2.50. That's $3.25. So we'll make an extra 50 cents and we'll make how much money? We'll have like 4,000 something.
Yeah.
All right.
So I would go ahead and move that we approve business item G8 related to the water rate for the contractor on Cottom to Virgin Water Line Project at a rate of $3 per thousand.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any
Does it
further
need to be
discussion?
extended at this item only?
That's this item only for the Cottom Line Virgin Pipeline. That's this only this project. So, all right, this is the money, Wayne, or we'll start here.
Can we have a
Joey.
quick
Oh,
discussion?
yeah, go ahead.
We don't have, there's no issue with us making up our own rate.
There's no issue with you deciding to change the fee that's charged
For this-
no,
for
for
this.
this particular
Okay.
one.
So
Yeah.
give us a
You can do
discount.
that.
Yeah, that's my only question.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item G9, discusses possible action on resolution 2025 commemorating the United States semi-quincentennial celebration. Did I say that right?
Sounds good.
That's $2.50.
Semi-quintessential. Semi-quincentennial.
How do you say it?
How do you say
He's got a nice logo.
I thought you said it right. You said it
Okay.
better than I would have.
No,
It was good.
Quincentennial,
It was good.
semi-quincentennial.
I like the logo. That's nice.
We just keep that logo.
That was,
I think that's good.
you really got a discounted,
Yeah, was that Darren did
rate on
that?
creating.
Or was that Emily? Ben did it. That's not the first one I saw, but I like the first one too, but this one's awesome. They're both great.
I'm ready for a motion.
Do it.
I make a motion, we approve business item G9.
Second.
You're not gonna say semi-quincentennial?
Not gonna try. People are watching, you know?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, calendar events. Moving the park, Friday, June 13th at Center Street Park. Food trucks arrive at 7:30. We'll start at dusk. If you saw the post on Instagram and they look pretty good down there. You guys went down and shot some movie, put a movie up and
Yeah, after
On
the
the
last council
screen.
meeting, we had to go test out the
Test it
projector
out.
and
Look-
audio system.
it looked good. And yeah, it was all about out of the ball field.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really
It'll be
good.
You started at 7:30 though?
No, it
No.
was 9.
It has to be pretty much done.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if the food trucks are coming at 7:30, the people are coming to watch the movie at 9.
They got to plan to eat a lot of food. Show up at 8.
I want to eat while I'm watching.
So what's the movie?
Not coming to the next Friday.
Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Finding Nemo.
I'm just throwing this at, do you think we're asking them to come earlier? Early at 7:30 if the movie's not going to start?
I don't think so. 'Cause
Too light at 7:30.
I've been to a number of these events.
Yeah.
It's kind of my family enjoys them, and a lot of times what ends up happening is people are bringing frisbees and volleyballs, and people show up right when the movie is starting. But you can also just come and kind of hang out, have a
Do you
social
think
event.
Tuckerville people like socializing like that?
we hope so.
It'll give us time to have seconds.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Of course, we have the 4th of July celebration coming up on the 4th of July. We do need a closed session this evening, so I need a motion to move into that.
I got it. I'll make a
Joey, you have a
motion.
language?
I got it. I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we move into closed session to discuss litigation, security, property acquisition or sale, or the character and professional competence or physical or mental health of an individual.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are into a closed meeting, so everybody else has to leave.